Jeffrey, have some fun.
Hey.
You're rocking your Friday shirt. It's not.
Before I left and I think I overdid it. I'm really sorry if it's too strong. Both of you? What? I said I put a dab of perfume on before I left and I apologize. It's strong.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Michelle's not here tonight.
Yep. So you want to go slow?
Yes.
Okay.
So I may have you or slow you
Yeah,
at
no
some
problem.
point, just to make sure I catch everything.
All right. Are you guys ready?
Yeah,
Is Tom-
5:44.
Actually, he's in the parking lot. I saw him in the parking lot.
Oh, Tom, yes.
Okay.
So be it.
Just the right place?
He's in the parking lot. Oh, there he is.
Captain.
Okay, let's call the order at 5:46. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Okay, why don't you start? Miles, Amaya, Alita, Grayshawn. And they're all second graders.
Thank you guys for coming. Are you guys gonna lead us in the pledge?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
you guys wanna start it? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Public notice was given.
All
You
right,
know that by heart, or do you have to read it?
No.
we don't need to do number 4. We are all here in person. All right, we're gonna hand it over to North.
All right, we're ready to go. So obviously between October and February, we have lots of things we could have highlighted, but I picked the few that I thought would be the most interesting. And the one thing I wanted to start with is our winter data, because I think that one thing that's really incredible at North is the growth that our students make from the time they come in to mid-year, and then the growth spurt they have from mid-year all the way to the end of the year. So you'll notice that our winter data, which is our running records, kindergarten, 94% of our kids made benchmark. First grade, 91% made the benchmark, and second grade, 97% made the benchmark. So looking really good, which means they're reading at the level they should be. So this I thought would be interesting for you to see. So writing is one area that you can really see growth in our students. So 4K does a representational drawing. And when they come in September, the teachers ask them to draw a person. This is the same student. So when he comes in, this is what the person looks like. The last one in December, you'll notice that now our person has a body, a head, some eyes, a mouth, nice ears, legs, and by the end of the year, I bet we'll have arms. So 5K, this is their writing, and when they come in, you'll notice what they do is they're listening for sounds. So L for like, and then it's the swings. And they're just like putting letters that they kind of hear. You'll notice that in 5K, their people now have legs and arms and eyes and hair, and they're on the swing. So that's where our 4K ends up. This time of the year, and something that's important to make note of with 4K is that's the first step in writing, is the drawing that they do. So then you'll notice in 5K, what ends up happening is now they know their snap words. So they have, first I went on the chairlift, it was high. So went was on they're spelling those words correctly, and then they're stretching the sounds for the other ones. You'll notice the picture is definitely a ski hill, and chairlift is a label, so that we're teaching them how to label their pictures. And there's more than one sentence typically. So this is the same student. First grade, this is where, so 5K, they kind of end here, they start here in first grade, where again, you'll notice there's more than one sentence. They're looking at punctuation, they know where to capitalize, they know where to put a period. I was riding in my mom's car to go to my friend's birthday party when I got there and I went to the front desk. So the pictures. Later in the year, in January, now they're doing kind of like a persuasive or, an opinion writing, and they're starting with, do you love cheeseburgers? Do you think, or have you, I don't know, think McDonald's cheeseburger is the yummiest cheeseburger in the world? Because it has a drive-through, and you can just drive up and you can just get the food. So they're giving you the reasons why they like it, which is impressive. So then we get to second grade. And second grade, you'll notice where they start, they're again stretching out words, they're listening for the sounds, the spelling looks pretty good. We were driving to Target, can we get a toy, we asked, maybe, said Mom, yay. So they're, using some word like where you can put quotes. Then this writing in January is, they're teaching you about a book that they're reading. And this one obviously is about dogs. So they're talking about a lot of dogs look different. There can be dogs with spots and brown dogs and yellow and gold dogs. There can be also dogs that are black and some have fur. If we turn the page, they would teach you something else about dogs. So every page has some different fact. So I just think it's always impressive to see where they go from the beginning of the year to the mid-year, and then obviously we're gonna have another major growth spurt between now and the end of the year. So with that, now I'll share some of the fun things we've interwoven in between our academics. Our 4K parent outreach night that we had a few weeks ago was a night at the library, and all of the 4K staff, myself and Lisa Feldner dressed up as a storybook character. I'm sure you will recognize all of them. The kids came with their families, they got a fun pen, they got an autograph book. There were activities and games, little snack station, and a scavenger hunt. And then they could take their autograph books, similar to like a Disney experience, and get all the signatures from the characters. We all had kind of like a fancy signature, and the kids loved it. We had about 165 people participate in that event. Our first graders had a concert right before Christmas. You can tell they're really into it. Every concert, Mr. Cripe does an art show and samples all of their artwork around the building. So after the concert, the parents can walk through and look at the artwork. And this year, Mr. Cripe added some little twinkling lights above the artwork to really make it stand out, which was nice. Second graders just had a concert a few weeks ago, and they were so excited to perform for their parents. The energy was, those of you probably all know, like the energy was just amazing in the gym. And then there was obviously an art show, and that's just a sample, but the art was all over the building. And our music teacher in second grade, the kids get to use these Drums Alive, which was a program kind of a thing purchased a few years ago for them. They do a nice job with it. We celebrated our 100th day of school, and our kindergartners celebrated by doing activities that were kind of like infused into the day. You'll see like they did cups. That was 100-second plank. They're counting, they're making necklaces, they're putting things of 100 together. So the whole day was about 100. This was the 101st day of school with first grade. They do a little spin on it, 101 Dalmatians, they dress up as Dalmatians, and they also have some activities that they do, but they really enjoy the Dalmatian part of it. We have Valentine's Day in there. I think this is the favorite party of the kids. The parents do a fantastic job of planning an activity, a snack, a game, and just run a really nice party. This one I think is the favorite because of the Valentines. And they make these really amazing Valentine boxes every year. And then we order cookies, and I think they eat frosting with sprinkles, and then they have a little bit of cookie in there. Our second graders do a writing celebration, and I think this is worth noting because this is the part of the year where they write and they nominate a character for a specific award. And it could be like the funniest character, the bossiest character, and they write a persuasive, like writing of why they think that. And their peers read it and they vote on which one they think has the best argument. And then they have their own Academy Awards. The red carpet is out. The teachers read who wins the awards, and then out of that award, one person wins like the big award. So the great thing about this is it's a really great community builder. These kids cheer for each other, they're excited for who wins, and the second grade teachers do a nice job with it, and like I said, the kids just love it. Purple people being purple, we have a lot of kids who love to help. And if you are ever in the building or in the lunchroom, every day we have kids who sign up to be tray helpers to make sure that the trays are stacked according to color and the right direction, so they're not all just thrown in there. It's a really important job. Then we started having some people who wanted to sweep every day. So we let them. And they do a great job. Not only do they sweep the lunchroom and help Mr. Chris out, then they take it into the hallway and they do a little sweep around the hallways. We've got one guy who kind of makes sure his crew is doing what they need to do, and then, so they do that before recess. We also we have the Sip Sip Hooray, which is like a drink cart that goes around with these little flavored water, and they go to teachers and offer flavored water, and it's a pretty nice treat during the day. The kindergartners did a kindness challenge, and they took home these hearts. It was right around Valentine's Day, and they would have either their parents or they would write like an act of kindness that they did on them, and then they also paired it with a food drive for the Hartland Food Pantry, which was nice. We did a National Kindness Week, and I can't remember, like Dream to Be Kind, I went through sports. Every day we had something that you could wear something different, and I apologize, I can't remember what the play on words was, but you can see we had sports, we had tie-dye, we had like wear something, a shirt that says something kind on it, we had be a purple person, wear purple, and the one that's not up here is Pajama Day, Dream About Kindness, I think it was. Thought you would want to see how many, this is just a very small portion of books we've given away this year, but every Friday I read about 20 to 25 kind of acts of kindness that these kids are nominated for, things that there's teachers or other teachers have seen them do, and I read what they're nominated for. They love hearing it, they come up, they get their token, and they get to pick their books. We are just about halfway through, or I should say we're a little over halfway through all of the kids, so by the end of the year, everyone will have gotten to pick a book. And it's really, I don't have pictures of it on here, but when they're all in line and they're just looking and trying to pick their book, and somebody might pick the book they want, and they just pick a different one, like they always have one or two, and it's just been a really big hit. And we have new lunch tables. One thing that isn't in here, but I do want to mention, is that our 4K also celebrated 100 days, so those pictures are on Facebook if you have a chance to look at them, because those kids dressed up like they were 100, and they were so we got our new lunch tables, and this is just a little sample of some kids sitting at them so that we could try them out before they go into the lunchroom, and the kids are over the top excited about them, and they're gonna be amazing. The chairs are not gonna be all over the place, and I borrowed the scissors from the Chamber of Commerce, so you'll see some pictures coming out when we do our ribbon cutting ceremony. And that is all I have for you, but we wanted to say thank you for the tables, can you guys roll your list too? They'll give it to
You want it?
What do I do with it now? Wait, anything inside?
It's the whole school's names.
Nothing's gonna jump out, is it? Oh my gosh,
And then I think there's some on the back.
and the back.
And the front. Mine's right there. And the front. Right there.
Good one.
I think we'll keep the card in the superintendent's office.
How's that
How
sound?
about in the room here?
Where they're
This is absolutely beautiful, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was just like,
thank you so much.
And thank you, parents, for awesome children.
Guys, I just wanted to say to them that you're doing jobs is to see the programs that you've instituted since my kids were last at home, so thank you for your work.
We're moving on to public comments. It looks like we only have one, Niels, and I know you know the guidelines already, so.
I do.
Go for it.
I'm not gonna stand out. But I know in the past, we had discussed where the public comments go in the agenda. And there, I guess my preference would be to, before you guys make a decision on an item on the agenda, it'd be nice to hear the board discussion, get a chance to get community feedback if we have it or whatever it is, and then make the decision. I do as much as I can to read the agenda in advance and the documents, but sometimes there's more information that comes out at the meeting from policy meetings or this or that. And so it'd just be really helpful to kind of hear some of those board thoughts. So I just wanted to bring it up again, see, maybe we could move it down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, new business. We're gonna move on to the presentation from Johnson's Block on our 2022-23 audit report. Right here. Hello.
And you have the presentation in board docs or hard copy. Go ahead.
Anything you wanted to jump in? So, thank you for having us tonight. My name is Brett Hoffmeister. This is Kayla Schmidt with me. I'm the partner on Hartland-Lakeside's audit. Kayla's the in charge. So we're just gonna go over the presentation. Looks like this. Brief overview here. It's 13 pages long. We're just gonna go over kind of some of the highlights. Just kind of go through some bullet points on the first couple pages. High level though, when we're looking at a financial statement audit, our job is to give an opinion on the financial statements, whether or not everything is in accordance with accounting principles for the year. So we look at your financial statements for all your funds, your long-term, short-term activity, and then make sure everything's in accordance with GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, look at internal control stuff, and then give an opinion on that. So our opinion covers, all your funds, all the activity for the district for the year. We did issue that report back in December. I know we had some inclement weather last month when we were gonna be here. So everything was unmodified, which is the highest level of assurance we can give in an audit. So it's a clean opinion is another way to say it. And I think Kayla then is gonna go over a little bit more
Yep.
high-level stuff.
Just some of the highlights, that the general fund of the district had an increase in fund balance of over 500K to increase it to a total of about 4.8 million. This was mostly due to expenditures being under budget in the last year. And then something to note, one of the different things was the net pension switched this year from an asset in the prior year to a liability, which those numbers are determined by an actuarial study commissioned by ETF. And then the remaining long-term liabilities that the district has are the compensated absences and a lease obligation. You guys have a copy of your lease, still with a year or so left on the payments, not much. And then that the district has no long-term debt outstanding as the end of the year. And we obviously noted that you guys have a debt limit that you could borrow up to 108 million, but we're just letting you know if you'd like to.
We're good.
And then going on to the next page, just showing what the scope of our audit, that we included all the funds and activities, and that we submitted the reports, and that we had no findings related to internal controls over the financial reporting.
And then the last piece for the single audit, so one thing that's additional that Hartland-Lakeside doesn't always have, it's when you reach certain levels of federal expenditures, spending federal money, you have to have what's called a single audit. So with that, we are looking specifically at your federal and state awards, reviewing certain programs for compliance with all the different requirements, the contract requirements, laws, regulations around those programs. Hartland-Lakeside's had, I think this is the third year now that you've had a single audit, and mainly because of the extra funding around COVID, mainly the ESSER funds. So I believe the major programs on the federal side were the ESSER funding, and then the Medicaid, which pretty common programs for school districts to have tested over the last 3 years. Medicaid's one that you see a lot as well. No findings or issues noted there, so the district was in compliance with all the stuff we tested. We also test state programs. We always have to test equalization aid, special education is another common one, but no findings on anything for either state or federal awards there. So the rest of the information in this packet is just summary financial statement data that are just extracted from the actual financial statements themselves. We weren't gonna go through that stuff in detail because, you guys have other stuff to do on your agenda. But overall, everything was clean, in good shape. I don't think we really had any significant adjustments or any changes to the financial statements that we would need to know. So, any questions on the audit or anything around the financials?
Anybody?
No, thank you.
No.
It was good.
Yeah.
Nice report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Good work, Amy.
Okay, we are going to listen to a presentation from the Education Foundation.
Want me to stay?
Maybe stand.
Yeah. I don't have anything to
Mainly
like,
because,
I'm
well,
speaking.
I think the camera, yeah, for the video.
Camera, that would be helpful, yes.
Usually people stand.
Yeah.
Here? Yes, okay. All right, I'm Miyoshi Zeal. I'm board member on the Lakeside Education Foundation. Probably all familiar with my face. So I just wanted to take a minute to update you on this year's grants. That's the main update today. We had 12 grant applications that we received for the 2023-2024 school year. 5 of those were reviewed and found to have funding within the school district. So then we looked at the remaining 7. 5 of those were fully funded and 2 were partially funded. I will go through a quick list of those with you. So we have going in at South and North Shore a 9-square activity for recess. So those are going to be ordered. That's so that kids have something extra to do at recess. So they're really excited about that. The student council, sorry, that was $1,900. Student council has some extra expenditures this year that they haven't in the past. So they wrote a grant for $1,500, which was awarded. Basketball hoop at South. which is exciting, $2,900. Library interactive space at North. Now, if you have not had a chance to check out the pictures and ideas for this, it's really fun. It's gonna be a completely different library over there, and I'm really excited for them. So that one is $20,000. Now, the next portion was athletic uniforms. So we were asked for volleyball uniforms and basketball uniforms. So this is the first where we fall into the partially funded category. The volleyball uniforms were $2,000 and fully funded. And then, the basketball uniforms were partially funded at $3,000. So there's a remaining $5,400-ish. And they were offered some additional assistance from us and also offered the option to reapply for a grant in the spring. Now the last one is the book vending machine that we just saw, and that one was partially funded, just about $3,000 as well. And so the total grants this year was about $35,000. I also wanted to give you a little update on last year's grants. I have a couple pictures that I'll just bring my iPad and show you, but the basketball hoop here was installed, and then North Shore Middle School had a lot of success with their functional skills supplies in that classroom, so they're continuing that from what I understand. And then North Special Ed has been making good use of their alligator board and their magnetiles. I have a picture of the alligator board for you. And then Ms. Quick gave me an update. She said the Sphero kits that were bought with the 2022 grant application process have been used at South by all different grade levels. And students are able to enhance their learning by applying a coding component to a skill set they are learning about. One of the recent activities that Ms. Quick's class completed was building their own floats for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Students used their knowledge of engineering and energy in motion to construct a float that was able to be moved by the Sphero. So I thought that was fun. I'll return my spot in a minute. There's the Spheros. Adorable.
Oh, cool.
Alright, and then there's the alligator board. I feel like Van Boy. Very fun. Alright. And then the last thing was we have decided to change the grant application timeline this year. Traditionally, we've done it in the fall, but we've noticed that maybe it would be beneficial to the teachers to be able to apply for that in the spring, and then receive their grant and then be able to utilize it for the entirety of the school year instead of receiving it halfway through. So this year we are changing to a April application date, so it'll be April 20th that grant applications will be open. They'll be closing on May 18th. Then the committee will meet about those in June, and then they will be able to be dispersed after our fiscal year in July 1st. Any questions? Yeah?
So, first of all, thank you for all that you have donated. I had a quick question for you. I thought you mentioned 5 fully funded projects, and I must have missed one.
Oh, sure.
9 Square.
Oh, 2 9 Square.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had, those were separate grants.
Okay,
Yep.
for
So-
$1,900 each?
Total.
Total, got it, okay, perfect, thank you.
All right, then I will pass over to Lydia.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lydia, and I wanted to give you guys an update on something new and fun that we're doing. We call it Focus Fundraisers. So Focus Fundraisers allow people, individuals or groups, to submit requests for assistance in fundraising for specific goals. So anybody can submit a request online, and all the money that we receive then goes towards that group for them to purchase that specific need. When we advertise for it, we make sure that it's clear that this money goes for that need. Our first Focus fundraiser was for the athletic uniforms. So as Miyoshi said, we weren't able to fully fund those. We then worked closely with Cindy and Carrie and came together and planned a fundraiser to try to raise more funds for that specific need. We contacted a local restaurant and asked if they'd be willing to host a dine and give back night. We also had our athletes from the basketball and volleyball team volunteering and serving food, which was amazing. They did an awesome job. They represented the school district, and I think they were received very well by the community, so I was so proud of them. It was pretty successful. We raised over $800, and I think the parents were very excited about it, and I saw a lot more engagement from them. I think that when people see specifically where the money's going and if it impacts their child directly, I feel like there's a lot more excitement about it. So I think it was received very well by the community, and I'm excited and hopeful that we get more requests and can help in other ways.
That was our first one that we've done that way.
It is our first one. Yep.
Great idea.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to committee reports. First, we're going to have Chris talk about the PDC committee meeting.
All right. So we went through the section zero and very little was, and I should say, when I say the section zeros, this is the Neola conversion from our existing set of policies into the Neola program. Their comparable policies are called the Zero Series, and Jeffrey and I reviewed those. And the intent behind most of the policies is the same, some slight different wordings, but for the most part, they were all the same. Now, they did have roughly 17 policies in the program that we did not have. So, again, still in the spirit, and most of that has to do with state statute and liability for us. So nothing earth shattering and nothing fundamentally different from the approach we're already taking. So keep that in mind. We did vote to approve that, and that will be coming along with some other additional ones for our March meeting. So we don't have to do anything for today. And then the next groups, Tina likes to think that we enjoy policy reading. So for the 1,000 pages of new policy that we get to read, I might be exaggerating by 100, but there'll be 3 different sets that'll be coming to the board at the next meeting for review. There'll be some key ones that have some slight differences, and we'll be sure to note those for you when we submit them. Or I shouldn't even say differences, but items to pay attention. And those will be coming at the next meeting as well. So there's not anything real specific on those next ones coming. The details will be distributed by email for you to read. The open records requests procedures, we did look through that, and we're gonna have the administration write down the specific steps to the process so that we can approve that as a policy. We have a very good one, and you guys did an amazing job updating that, and I'm sure everyone out here appreciates it, because it was a little difficult before. It's really clean, it's really clear, now we'll be making a policy. That'll be helping us moving forward. The next one on, let's see here. Public participation, the policy 187, at committee meetings, We've taken the stance that these are working subcommittees and we would prefer to have public comment be in front of the entire board. So we're updating that language. Tina's going to bring it back to us at our March meeting, which is, I believe, this Friday at 8 a.m. So we're gonna review that policy to see how it pans out. And then Jeffrey and I will talk through it and make a recommendation to the board for next month. And finally, the just cause versus arbitrary and capricious versus good and sufficient as far as the employment goes. We're working on the policy now and we're recommending using the Neola template as far as how that is going to be administered. So we'll be reading through that again, making sure that it's clear, and provide a recommendation to the board at the next meeting.
I will add to it in the sake of transparency when we're going through this. We did have finance also take a look at the financial policies. So PPC looked at the finance, as did finance. So finance is gonna bring what they believe recommendations forward for our meeting on Friday, and then we will all go through it. So that will be like 4 of the board members will have already gone through the 6,000s. We just wanna make sure that everybody's involved where they need to be involved, so.
Any questions? Great. Thank you. Yes.
Okay,
All right, Finance Committee. Just briefly, we discussed updates on the transportation plan, which we'll be discussing again later during the meeting. We also discussed the North Library model, which we're really excited to hear the details on. And then specifically, kudos to the administrative team for managing finances in such a way that we have the funding that we need to support the library renovations. Another one was, we briefly discussed potential changes to employee health insurance options, as that has to be renegotiated every year. We reviewed the Neola 6000 series for the financial, and I'll tell you, just like Chris said with the others, at least half the policies from Neola we don't have through our current WASB policies. So much more thorough, so really good to see all of that. We also discussed outstanding student fees. There's still about $14,534 that are outstanding student fees, and a little over $5,505 that are lunch fees. And to be clear, these are not students or families who would otherwise qualify for free or reduced lunch. And these are not families that have applied for hardship exceptions, and I understand correctly. And so that's, what is that, about $20,000 of outstanding fees that the district's going to be working to try and recoup, for that per policy. And I think that was it. Please.
So, with that outstanding fee, you covered the issues of ability to pay the full amount, perhaps a partial amount based on whatever. Going forward, do we have any policy or idea what we want to do about that $20,000 after we've made a couple phone calls? Do you know where I'm going with that?
That's covered in that Neola 6000 series that
But is that what we want to do?
There is a process outlined there. Yeah, and it was actually started for the current outstanding policies, so Maureen sent out statements to families that had not paid fees, along with a bright pink sheet of paper, outlining the process for getting up to date, and that the next steps might be referring for collections.
I think that's what I was kind of leading up to. Healthcare hospitals have similar dilemmas, and probably shouldn't say it in a public forum, but Hospital Association of Wisconsin has a policy about how far they will push it. And I think that's something that we need to consider.
So we do have a current policy.
Okay.
But the Neola policy is even more in detail, and so that will be presented as part of the 6000 series.
Thanks.
I'll offer a little more history on that. When we first came on board, we had that policy and we weren't following the policy. So we brought that policy to the board, you may recall, and said, is this the way you want to do things? Because we were just consuming that dollar amount year after year. And so you think, okay, in January, here we are at 20,000. What were we at the end of the year last year? 50, 40? I don't know. Was it double? Maybe 40,000? And the district just said, oh, we'll just write it off. We'll just pay for it. So we came to the board and said, we're not following this policy. This is what it says we should do. If we're not going to follow the policy, we should write the policy to reflect what we're doing, or we should follow the policy. So that's when the board determined that you were going to follow the policy, and we began a process of working through how are we going to do this. Yes, we take payment plans. We offer a variety of ways that people can pay, but we do make the phone calls, and we do now we subject individuals after many attempts to the collections process. So we are following.
I would presume also there probably is or should be a dollar threshold. Like if you spend $500 in court costs to collect $100, that's not really a good return on our investment. So I mean, I presume that'll be in there.
Right, I also will add that from a lunch perspective, regardless of whether a student is over, if they're still owing, we are not refusing children lunch. They will still be fed, even though they're in the red for their debt. So just a couple of points to make.
And to be clear, there is a process well spelled out in policy about how to apply for hardship if there are extenuating circumstances, even if a family doesn't qualify for free or reduced lunch programs otherwise. So we want to make sure that we're not, that we're being cognizant of everybody's.
Real quick, what is that percentage right now? The amount of students or student body that would qualify for free reduced?
It's about 20%.
Pardon me?
Was about 20%.
Seems to be improving. I recall around 25%. I don't know if that's a matter of definition or if things are improving, but
Yeah, it might be improving, but that was our number for last year. I haven't seen the
okay, no, it's good to know that. Appreciate it.
That was it?
Alright, we're
Thank
gonna move on to the consent agenda, and I would like to, so for many of you who've been coming, it's where we are able to put a number of different items listed all under one motion, so it makes us more efficient and gets us through meetings in a quicker manner. There was some concern last meeting that we were approving policy and talking about our committee work after we were approving policy, so we have flipped it. So as you can tell, we spoke to committee stuff before we have approved consent agenda. We don't have any policy to approve tonight, but I wanted you guys to be aware that we did flip it. Okay.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as outlined on the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Okay.
Don't mind disappointing.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna turn it over to Tina for the superintendent report.
This is pretty brief, so I am going to stay put and speak from here. If it will load. There we go. Just a couple of just brief quick updates for you. You may recall, back when we first came aboard here, we were talking a little bit about behavior and trying to figure out what we're gonna do and put out a survey to staff and thought, oh, the Dean of Students was the way to go, so we right away got that going and we posted it and we held interviews and we're sitting in the interviews and we're like, what's the dean gonna do? So we all just kind of stopped, right? You pump the brakes and you reassess and you reevaluate the process and you get a committee of all teachers and staff from kindergarten through 8th grade, and we get together and over the course of the last 4 or 5 months, we have been meeting to put together a plan. Really wasn't about, oh, we have terrible behavior. It was really about consistency and common language across the district. So much like we teach with literacy and math and we ensure that common language is used throughout, we wanted to do the same thing with our behavioral management plan. So we met and we've concluded those meetings. We started with, I'll say this, we started with North, and then we went to South, and then we went to North Shore Middle School. Kind of built upon the plan, because the foundation would be at the very beginning, and then made it age appropriate from there. As far as the rollout is concerned, this is fluid. That's the right word, it's fluid. Principals and site team members have met already with the staff to roll out the plan. Michelle Schmidt and I and a couple of team members held meetings last week for our parents of 6th through 8th graders. We spoke about the expectations that we have for our middle schoolers, as well as impact of digital media and some other pieces that we wanted to ensure that we were addressing as a team with our families. Heartland North staff, Heather has already met with them and they will meet with their classrooms individually to share out and talk about expectations, talk about kind of what that looks like, and then we'll put a letter out to families. Hartland South is gonna hold grade level assemblies with the principal to discuss expectations with students, and then we'll also put out a notice to staff. North Shore Middle School has really already kind of put this in place, so this is kind of old before we knew what we were gonna do with that. Really kind of already had the conversation with our staff, have our expectations outlined for our students as they are right now. Once I know that everything out in the buildings is set to go and we kind of are starting to think about how we're moving forward, I will then put together a communication to our families. In that will likely be a digital clip of a montage or of all of the really important facts that we had from our parent meetings with the middle school. And so we have this going, and implementation is by March 1st, March 5th.
So we're really excited about this. We are looking at this as kind of a pilot. And we're gonna trash, tweak, and treasure here at the end of it, which means that we're all gonna get together and say, okay, what went really well, let's treasure that. What needs a little tweaking, and what didn't work at all, let's get rid of it, right? And let's figure out what we need to do, so that when we start school next year, we've got a full-on plan that we know is gonna work because it's already gone through 3 months of trial. So that's where we're at with the behavioral management. Next, we have kind of our marketing and enrollment update. We've been busy. So we've hosted an open enrollment informational meeting. I believe all of those parents set up meetings with our administrative teams to go on tours. That's in full swing right now. So we shared out with them kind of highlights of each of the schools with the principals, and then of course the district. We've done a lot of advertising. We've got some Facebook advertising for open enrollment meetings, general open enrollment, 4K and 5K parent meetings, increasing engagement on Facebook with the increase of general postings and then boosting to go along with that. We do have some open enrollment meeting ads out in the Waukesha Freeman. I had a great time last week recording the radio advertisements for AM 620. So those will begin tomorrow between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. So you'll be hearing those. We do have banners and yard signs for enrollment in meetings. We do have flyers at Piggly Wiggly and Pick and Save at the checkouts to be handed out in the bags. And we do have postings in the Hartland Library bulletin board. So that's just kind of that in your purview advertising. What are some ongoing efforts, again, that increase social media engagement? The Vogelman vlog is new. We have Facebook weekly advertisements for open enrollment. We're connecting with families, so we go through a process, and Maureen and Michelle keep a spreadsheet, and they share in there if they're open enrolled in and they're interested, and they give us their information, including their email. So they get a happy little message from me as soon as I see their email address and they're added to the spreadsheet. Also, anybody who might open enroll out or be considering that, I also say, hey, is there anything I could do to keep you here? Most of the people that are on that list have never been at Hartland. So they have to, every year, they have to re-identify themselves. So most of the people who are OE out right now have never come to Hartland. And we have a hearty number of individuals open enrolling in right now and looking to come to Hartland-Lakeside. So that's really awesome, really excited about that. Personal tours, I already mentioned. We did request reviews on Facebook from families, and we quickly gained 4 or 5 new reviews, positive reviews, so that got our rating up to a 4.4 rather quickly. So if anybody is sitting in this room and really loving what we're doing here at Hartland-Lakeside, please go out to Facebook and give us a positive review. We just have that one that kind of is hanging on, and the algorithm just won't get rid of it until we get enough positives to ooch it off that ledge. So we like to get it there. And then again, we're continuing to build the website. I hope that everybody is utilizing that and seeing that as the benefit that it is. As promised previously, the calendar is up and more integrated now with it's called Our School, which is our automated system. And we are breaking into, we had a request to have board meetings or anything related to the board have its own little section. So we're getting that, we're hoping to have that in by Friday or Monday of the following week. So we continue, any feedback you give us. The other thing that we've done, and just for note, because we have changed the way that we're doing meeting minutes and recordings and all of that, they go out to board docs. So I think Amy spent the day today uploading all the way back to January 1st of 2023, all of the previous meeting minutes into board docs. So if you're looking for those, that's where you'll find those. And that's what we're also going to do with video going forward, because we now, rather than paying to have Zoom, and we're being very fiscally aware, YouTube is free. So we created our own thing rather than spending the money on Zoom, and we will be subscribing through that, and it's a channel you can subscribe to. But anything prior to July 1st of 2023, you'll wanna go through that open records request. And we can get it to you, and that's not a problem. It's just, that's the manner in which that we'll move forward. So typically a year will be out in board docs, and then it'll fall off. Next steps, car window stickers, so if you didn't grab one, everybody's gonna be getting these mailed out to them. They have them on, I have them on the table out there, there will be a nice little letter coming to you. It's a great way to market our school and have people understand how proud we are all of being here at Hartland-Lakeside School District, so please make sure you grab one of those. We also are gonna be really, we now have a profile on greatschools.org and Niche. Those are also two sites that people go to try to find out if we're a good school. What are your scores and what are things? So we're really gonna be asking for our community to go out to those two sites and put in positive feedback. I am going to be meeting with the realtors of the area, so I have a big meeting to talk about the great school that Hartland-Lakeside schools that Hartland-Lakeside has. Because realtors meet new people moving in all the time, and one of the first questions that parents ask realtors, what kind of schools are they? What do you have for schools around here? So we wanna be the first, we wanna be that school that they're recommending. So we'll be meeting with realtors. And then we also are doing self-submissions to local newspapers, less about open enrollment and more about the exciting and wonderful things that are taking place in our schools on a weekly basis. So that's kind of our marketing and enrollment update. And last is our summer school update, Summer Splash Academy 2024. A summer of fun and academic enrichment awaits. So what this looks a little different than it probably has in previous years. Classes will be held at Hartland South for K through 2nd grades and North Shore Middle School for 3rd through 7th grades. That's a switch from North because we have so many wonderful things that are taking place this year at North in the summertime, and we have to have one summer where we can get in there and get things done. We're looking at repairing the roof and putting in carpet and working on the gym floor and working hopefully on that library and doing the parking lot. I mean, there's a plethora of things that just wouldn't be safe for families to be at North for. So we are still looking at doing the getting ready for 4K at Hartland North. On that 4K side, we will still do that because the biggest part of that is that they are in their classrooms and they get to see what that feels like, and it's away from all of the action of what changes and things that we're doing in the building, so that will stay the same. But to get back to the model of summer school and what that looks like, we are hosting 3 2-week sessions of classes. Okay, so it's 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and it actually kind of is around that July 4th holiday. You'll notice that when you look at that second bullet under 2-week classes, the first week is June 24th through the 28th, and the second week is July 15th through the 19th. When we look back at attendance and we think about the 4th of July, that's when attendance kind of drops a little bit. And it's really important that if you sign your children up for summer school, that they attend, because it's a fiscal thing for us as much as it is an enrichment thing for your students. So if you sign up for it, we're counting on that financially for the district as a revenue builder. We are working with the village right now for some options in there if you're a family that sticks around during that holiday season and you're looking for some options. I can't really share that out yet because we're not there, but I promise you we're working on a workaround for that. And then again, July 22nd through August 2nd. So we're looking at 2-week classes there. Then we have a new 3-week enrichment class. So June 10th through the 28th, and then July 15th through August 2nd. We have things like musical theater, so from the beginning to the end for 4K through 2nd and 3rd through 7th, I believe, where they start, they talk about the show, and they do the set, and they do a performance at the very end of the 3 weeks for the families. We are looking for and hoping that we have other people who are interested, if it doesn't work out this year, absolutely for the future, to really kind of focus these on life-ready skills and financial, like what does that game of life look like, and how do we build a budget and how do we go grocery shopping and just some basic things like that I think we can instill in our kiddos now. To help them be more aware as they become young adults. So we're really excited about that 3-week enrichment class and seeing
where that takes us. Yes,
What age group is that for?
we have some, I
Is that
believe,
all across?
it is all across. So
The
they're,
enrichment as well?
yes.
Are they all combined?
So K2, no, they aren't, K2 is at South, and I think they're divided up, Heather, correct me if I'm wrong. Kindergarten, first, second, all kind of go in their own, or are they all lumped together?
It goes 4K in kindergarten, first and second
Okay.
are the classes.
So 4K and kindergarten would be combined, and first and second would be combined in
So
enrichment.
did I miss something? You're gonna teach kindergarten and, or 4K in kindergarten how to go grocery shopping?
Well, no, that's not, that's what we're working toward, what we're talking about.
That's why I was getting a little confused.
Yeah, no, that was just an example.
I mean, your hat's off, but hey, it's a little early.
No, that's
Just
just,
lucky if
that's,
they get it into the right cart when I take the
yeah, that's just kind of our thinking and our thought process as we move forward. So 4K, no, it would be more like, let's have a lemonade stand.
Okay.
Right, and teaching them fiscal responsibility through that. So just kind of ideas, right? Dave, do you have this, yeah, you're right? You were-
Yeah, no, you're right, yeah.
Then we have the 6-week targeted learning enrichment. So really kind of focusing in on some of those core interventions in enrichment for our students. And rather than having it be intense intervention for 4 hours, these students will have intervention for, let's say, ELA reading for 1 hour, then they get to go pick one of the 2-week enrichment classes for an hour, then they come back and they do math for an hour, and then they go back into the enrichment. So they still get to have an experience with some of those summer enrichment classes, but they're really getting that that more intense learning and really trying to avoid that summer slide, I think, is more than anything, because most of our students kind of have that drop. We're really trying to keep those students really kind of at where they're at when they leave, so that when they come back, we're together. And then again, talking about that getting ready for 4K at North will kind of keep get our 4Kers excited about what to expect when they come. So, yeah.
One more note, just to make sure I'm catching it, on the initial 3 standard 2-week sessions, was there an AM and a PM for that?
Nope, they're all in the morning, so they start at 8:30, 8:30, then go till 12:30. Yep.
Good one, thank you.
So with the 3-week enrichment classes, how are those going to be scheduled in with the 2-week courses?
So if you're gonna sign up for a 3-week course, you're gonna take a 3-week course, that's it. Monday through Friday, you're in that 3-week course.
So it's an either or?
Yep.
Okay,
Otherwise, you can come off that second 3-week and take a 2-week
okay,
class.
all right. And then how are the teaching teams choosing students for the targeted learning enrichment?
So we went through that process, I worked with our coaches, had conversations with our individual teachers, we asked for recommendations for all students that they felt could use this enrichment. So it's not just kids that are basic or below basic, it's kids that are on the hump or kids that we identify as maybe it would help just keep things going forward. But they were targeted students specifically, and they have handed out letters at
They specifically talk to the families at conferences, as this might be a recommendation for math, ELA, or both.
And then how about for our students who have IEPs? Because I think in the past, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, that when we looked at trying to enroll my oldest in some extra academic programming during the summer, if I remember correctly, because the minutes exceeded what was in his IEP, he didn't qualify for that. I'm trying to remember.
No, the biggest thing is that summer school is voluntary.
Okay.
So sometimes there's been confusion in the past around what is extended school year, which means that a student was not making sufficient progress on their IEP goals during the school year. And extended school year is completely different than voluntary summer school, so that's where some of the confusion has arisen in the past. A good question.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm out of order and I didn't realize that, but I ended with,
I'm glad you keep going.
Thank you. So
There weren't other
this,
decisions that could affect me as an administrator.
I appreciate that. So yes, this is something, summer school is something that we do need a decision on. So it's just approval so that we can get it out and get the catalog out to, our families.
I make a motion to approve the summer school plan as presented.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay, Amy, we're gonna hand it over to Amy for the discussion on monthly finance report.
Thank you. Okay, we're looking at January financial statements. January is a very exciting month for a business official because we get tax deposits. So we received just over 3.4 million of our tax levy. We also received some grant deposits of $20,285. And then our interest on our money market account is at 5.5%. So we are getting $15,592, which is fantastic. When you look at the expenses, there is nothing alarming or outstanding at this time. Roughly, the expenses should be about 59% of our budget. If you look at each line item, you see we're below or right around that amount. So the district looks really good for Fund 10. Fund 27, our special education, revenue is great. We did receive a special ed aid payment of $101,000. We did have some Medicaid reimbursements of just over $14,000. We also have a few grants tied to special ed, which we received $46,705. And then we just had that interfund transfer that I do each month from Fund 10 to Fund 27, and that was just over $30,000. Again, expenses are looking good and on budget, so I'm really excited about that. Fund 46, that is our capital improvement account, that is just interest, and that interest is also at 5.5%, so we're just letting that grow for future projects. Fund 50 is food service, so the deposits coming in are truly from students and families for their lunch balances. And then the expenses are related to our vendor chart rolls. And then Fund 80 is our daycare program. So all of the revenue expenses are tied to that program only, and she is on budget as well. Are there any questions on the financials? Anybody? Okay, next we'll be talking about North Library. So I'll have Heather join me a second here, or do you need us?
Can I just put, you want me to put my?
Yeah, if you can, I'll talk the numbers.
Okay.
While you get ready. So in your packet or on board docs, I did include the financial information as it relates to the library. We did present this at finance. But what Heather and her team came to the conclusion is that the library needs updating. It's probably original, but they've been making two. So we started putting together those costs. Greg was able to get 3 bids for flooring to get updated over the summer here. Furniture, as you heard, some of that was funded by the foundation, and then Heather took a balance of that out of her site account, so that has been ordered and ready to go. There's a couple other pieces that were in the works with at this time, but one of them is a great feature, and I'm going to say a puppetry, but it might not be the right way to say it. But that is the piece that is not currently budgeted. But I'm going to let Heather do what she does best and tell you why this is all very important to the children, because I'm just a numbers person. So go ahead, Heather.
All right. Oh my gosh, we've been waiting for this opportunity for a couple of months now, and super excited. I think last year was when I really decided we needed to do something different with the library. It's outdated, it is not developmentally appropriate for our kids, and I think we have such a unique opportunity. Our kids are ages 4 to 8, like they're little. So when you think about a library and you think about what's appropriate, and when you walk into ours, it's straight out of the 70s. And which is, I mean, it has books and it has, you know, like some posters on the walls and things like that. So last year, to try and bring some sort of life into the library because my goal really has been to make it the heart of the building. We are the foundation for literacy. We set that foundation for our kiddos. So I talked to Lisa and I said, I really want to do centers. Our kids go twice a week and they get a story and they check out books, but we need more. So we incorporated centers. So they go the first time for the story, the second time they go in their centers and they get to choose different, from different activities that they want to do. And we kind of did the centers around themes. So during winter we had, a theme for that. We had a Winnie the Pooh theme around Christopher Robin's birthday. And we would run it for about a month, 4 to 6 weeks, depending on kind of where it fell. That has been a huge hit with the kids. They absolutely love it. The teachers love it. It's just brought some life to the library. So that was great, but still not great enough. So I started looking at what could we do with this space. And Lisa obviously being the literacy coach, I went to her, I talked to Greg. I mean, I think I had their ear almost every day, like, this is what I want to do, I have this big picture. We started researching libraries and we had kind of a vision, but there isn't a library out there that meets the vision. So we looked at probably no less than 30 libraries around the country. And I mean, we were looking at Australia, we were looking at all these really cool places. And what we found out was we really liked pieces from all of these libraries, but nobody had what we were looking for. Like, it just wasn't out there. And, and again, like, we're so lucky because we can create this space and we can make it appropriate for 4 to 8-year-olds. Like, we don't have to think outside of that age group. And we started pulling in pieces like we wanted it to be interactive. We wanted it to have a different floor because the centers and the things that we wanted the kids to do were messy because they're kids. And so we were like, oh, this carpet's not gonna work. So somehow we need Greg to get us some quotes on how we're gonna get some vinyl in here and carpet. Some of you might know North is always a little bit, we're always stretched for space. Like, we're just jam-packed. We have the most students in that building. And so I had to turn there's a corner in the library that I talked Greg into putting a wall up and we made it into a room. And for our interventionists, which now I'm gonna take that room back because if we're able to redo the library, I can't have that, like, we've gotta redo the whole thing, and that's just such an important piece to have back, so the interventionist will have to move somewhere else, but we'll figure that out. We are gonna repurpose some things, which we'll show you kind of what we're thinking, and we'll go through kind of our ideas, and I think you'll get a pretty good feel for where we're going.
So we're gonna go back in time, welcome to 1970.
So this is obviously the current environment, and you can see the tables. These tables are heavy, which is great, but they're super heavy. We've got these bins that hold the books. We've got these plastic bins that also hold some books, and they don't stay on the shelf, so they're kind of like, they topple a little bit. And you'll just notice there's the carpet is different all over. I don't know if it was remnants when they put it together or what they did, but like the carpet is just different every time you walk through a certain area.
And this is our circulation desk. You can tell it's a huge fort. It takes up a whole corner of the room. If you look here, if you put a kindergartner next to this, they would come up about here. So they have to look up to look at the person up there, and they have to reach up to put their book there. It just doesn't match their height. It does go down here, but still it's a little bit over their head. And it takes up so much space, and that space could be used so much better. We'll show you how we think it could be used better in just a minute. And then this is just another view of how the room is worked. This is the room that Greg built for us. You can tell that there's a short wall here, and then if we can gather that space back, we want to use that for more of a story time area. And then here are the bins that we have for the picture books. They're made so that the kids can see the covers of the books and flip through easily. but there's at least 25 to 30 of them in the room, so when you walk in, it's just a whole row of bins, and it's not appealing to anyone when you look in there. Another thing to look at is our mishmash of a story time area. It just has a bunch of different carpets that we found in the basement at North and put there, and then there's the older chair that's been in the library forever. And then we found a chart stand in the basement that we could put up there for that as well.
So that's just an overview, you know, like kind of piece together where we're at. But this is the new environment. So this is just part, well, we have more slides. This over here is what we got the grant through the foundation for. So we were able to order these pieces. We have this cute little house that they can sit in like a cozy nook. We have this piece up here, and then some additional shelves like this one right here. It goes on the end. So there's shelving for books. There are, I thought there maybe were some drawers or something under here that you could open.
It's a square bin, square, and then it's divided into 4, and you can put picture books in there, so as you're sitting on the benches, you can actually grab a book and just go read. You'll notice that in this picture, there's this color. The library's gonna be painted color, just like that. We are going with something similar to that. We have purple in there right now, so we can really build off of the color that they have here. We found these and we just loved them, and we have a couple of places in the library, some walls where we can build those. So we talked to Greg, because Greg is just like the do-it-all guy.
The jack of all trades. So he is confident he could build those, and then we'll just paint the wall behind it. And I don't know if we would do couches, but we might do like some sort of bean bags or something in there, like cozy seating for the kids. But we know we have space for at least 2 of those. And then this is kind of the more of a circulation desk that we're looking at, something small. That there's a computer, the kids check out their books. That's all we really need. We don't need that huge area. The kids use that little tiny space.
And those bins that we've been talking about, those long ones, we don't want to just get rid of them, we want to repurpose them. So the thought is that Greg into a tray, not all 25 of them, but just a few into a tray. So we're thinking that tray might look something like this, Greg, or it would look like this with a nice space, which we would approve of before you put it on. So we're thinking that, because that would make the kids more motivated to jump in there and look at those books, maybe even see, we're not sure though, make it fun.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we thought a train going through would just be real cute. This is our favorite part of the whole library. This is what we designed the library around. This was the first piece we found that we started creating around. This is a tree, but it has a puppet theater behind it. So there's a little platform the kids can walk up on. And we right now have a little theater, and we give them books and puppets, and they love it, and they recreate the stories. They put the stuffed animals out for audiences to watch them. And this tree is, it's handmade, and it comes from Florida. So this is in a public library, and what we would like is this exact tree. It's about 4 feet in diameter, and then the upper part is 6 feet. And then we picked some similar bugs like that. That we would love to be able to order, and once, like we said, once it's approved, hopefully, then we send them, I think we have to put half down, and then they begin creating it and making it for us, so.
If you've ever been in the Menominee Falls Public Library, their children's center had a tree very similar to this, except theirs is more like a clubhouse, which we don't want, we want the public theater. And it's that pressed foam, so it's very sturdy and durable, and you won't get wrecked too easily, so that's a nice thing too. And I didn't think, he said too that if we wanted, he would make a screen for above to kind of cover the tiles, so the whole ceiling would be green with the leaves, so it would be a really nice statement piece when you walk into the library.
So that would be our statement piece. That as people we're touring families and prospective families, and they're walking past, like, they're just gonna be flying in.
And you said, wow, I wanna be here. Okay, and then besides just our centers that we've been doing, we wanna make some permanent center areas in the library. One of those permanent center areas would be an interactive flannel board wall. So we would make a big flannel board on the wall that they can use different pieces and story tell. So it's gonna build oral language development, it's going to build those storytelling skills, and it's also gonna encourage creativity and imagination. So imagine the flannel board on the wall, they're taking the pieces, they're putting it all over, they're talking about it, moving the pieces around. It'll just be a great little area for them to enjoy storytelling and everything they learn in the books.
It's important to note that Greg is gonna build the frame. So this was
Writing this all down,
he knows we found this light bright wall, it's right out of Milwaukee. This is great, it goes really well with, I don't know how many kids have light brights anymore, but we were talking, we had it growing up and we played with it all the time. So good, even though these are bigger, I think it'll still be good for like fine motor, being creative,
Visual, spatial development.
So we're hoping to get one of those, like I said, they're right out of Milwaukee, so it's easy.
And it comes with a nice frame that Greg won't have to build. Okay, then, remember that area I showed you that had the circulation desks, that was the big fort? That area we want to make into a makerspace. That area is right next to where the Dreams Lab is in Hartland North. The Dreams Lab, if you remember, has windows looking into the library. We're gonna have Greg take those windows out and make a doorway to open up the library to the Dreams Lab. And then we're gonna have Greg make a barn door that closes when we don't want the rooms together. But then that's gonna encourage this part where the circulation desk would be a makerspace part along with the Dreams Lab. So that makes that area much bigger. It's not gonna look totally like this. We put this here because we really like the storage area, the nice organization. So we would want to purchase some of those types of things to make that makerspace stay neater. Because we've noticed that our centers get a little messy. So we wanna make sure that we're keeping things neat, organized, and that our materials last longer than just a few days or even months.
And keeping it from year to year, I mean, we're some of the things that go really well, we wanna be able to keep to pull out, like January, we have, the same theme, and tweak it a little bit. But yeah, this area, we really liked some sort of organization to it. And, this was just our original, we put it in here because this was sort of our original floor plan and trying to figure out where things would go, so the tree is in the middle, the story time, where the bins would go, we were trying to,
It's our vision board, so if you want to see a closer look of our vision board, you can pass it around.
I think the thing though to keep in mind is that there isn't a library like this anywhere. This is a one-of-a-kind library in a school. It's innovative, it's interactive, it's fun, it's friendly, it's the heart of the school, it's where the kids are going to want to be. It is going to be definitely something that's talked about that I mean, there isn't another school, we got a lot of these from public libraries, a lot of our ideas. So I think it could be just a really great addition to Hartland North.
So I'm just gonna jump in here real quick because I think they've done a phenomenal job and I love the vision and I love every ounce of this and of all the things that in my career so far here, if I'm gonna stand behind something, it's this, and you guys know that. More because the understanding that children at 4 years old, their whole world revolves around play. And so going from play into 4K, oftentimes what you see is people really trying to, for lack of a better word, shove literacy and books down their throats. And the disinterest happens immediately. Because it's no longer this interactive, it's no longer the telling of stories. the make-believe, the acting out and bringing words to life. And they have showed and just done a beautiful job of bringing that course together. But that to me makes so much more sense than what you see across this country in 4K kindergarten, first and second grade. It's a beautiful plan, you've done a beautiful job, I cannot commend you enough on the great work. Really proud of you, really, really proud.
All right.
Any questions?
Several, of course.
Yeah, we're ready.
So I'm gonna ask Greg. Do you have a perspective on cleaning, perhaps sanitizing some of these creative designs and spaces? Obviously, they just jump out, they're beautiful, but is there a way that we have a routine or a special way without hopefully increasing labor costs or cleaning costs to maintain good sanitation? Because there's gonna be a lot of hands-on, which I really, really like, but as the more hands-on goes, we should probably be a little bit.
Yeah, we'll have to incorporate a different plan, but it'll be accommodating for what they have.
I guess I'm just asking you to keep that component as a part of your overall consideration, the maintenance of it, the safety, the cleanliness, all that, you know. Secondly, as far as resources go, the most important thing is thank you very much for taking the time to do the research and what others are doing, and it validates what you just got done saying, that there's not a lot of resource out there. So I'm just gonna make a couple suggestions. Are there any universities, well, I shouldn't say, I know there's universities out that have programs on library administration. I would think that they would be a resource you could go to. And then my fallback is always my favorite library, the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. Just to see if they have something that could be a resource to you, either materials-wise, learning materials-wise, design-wise. So if you would at least touch base with them. If you've never been to the Library of Congress, it's unbelievable. It's the most beautiful building in Washington, D.C.
Chris?
Thank you very much for doing all the work.
Thanks so much.
The passion and enthusiasm in your eyes is very apparent, and I appreciate that. It's just great. I did have a couple questions. One that was going through my mind, Tina answered when she spoke about the progression from home play, mom and dad reading, into now a teacher telling me I have to go have read time. That's a difficult jump, so I applaud you guys for taking that into consideration to create that innate love of learning as they get into more structured behavior. So great. First thing I had a question on was the tree. You had mentioned something about it being foam something.
Well, they call it that, like pressed foam. It's very thick and heavy. It's not lightweight, like you can't knock it over. It's pretty heavy.
It's kind of like glazed over too,
Yeah,
right? So it's not like they're gonna pick at it, yeah.
Is it a particular fire hazard being foam? Because I know foam really likes to burn.
And if you think about those molded plastic play grounds and stuff that you can buy for kids, and even those bikes and stuff, it feels like that, but it's a different flavor.
Okay, so
And
it's not
safe.
something that I'm gonna walk up with my fingernail like this and I'm scratching the foam.
No, there's a finish over it,
Okay,
yeah.
that makes me feel better, thank you. Next question I had is a lot of the pictures you had, they were beautiful for reference, but some of those had higher ceilings and lights. So my question to you is, are we considering taking into account the lighting in the library? Because I imagine that you're putting up a giant tree in the middle, that's gonna block sunlight, but if our lighting is poor, that also could affect the overall experience when you walk in. So have we looked at that?
It's a great point. We certainly will be looking at that as we build around.
Greg's gonna build new lights?
No, honestly, I think it's more about, once you get in there and you start moving pieces around, I can say I'm gonna put track lighting here, but if where I want track lighting is really over here, I'm not gonna put that in until this is up, right?
Okay.
So once this is together, then we can look around and say, oh, yeah, we need to highlight here, so let's put some tracks in, or let's put some beams from the base up. We'll assess that as we come. We have electricity in that space, right? So as long as we have electricity, we can run wire. It's not that hard.
It's drop ceiling, right? Drop
It is,
ceiling.
but it's only 7.5 feet tall in there, we've measured
That's what I
several
thought.
times. It's a short ceiling, but they'll design the tree to that height for us. So, and
Okay.
it's gonna, the wingspan, the tree span, the branches is 6 feet. So it'll be a 4-foot wide trunk and then it'll go out 6 feet above. So we'll have to wait and see what it looks like once it's up.
That's probably a false ceiling and there's some space in between that. I know it's not gonna be cheap to raise the false ceiling, but that's something to make it a little easier and more open for you.
Yeah, so with the lights, the only thing is, just keep that in mind from the budget when we're brought the whole thing. I'm guessing that may either not have been considered or is hopefully a small enough amount to where it's an incremental increase that could easily be covered with something, without any real effort. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the only thing that I had.
I love this, cause I live and breathe anything creative, and that was one of my things when I ran was, how can we be innovative, how can we make learning fun and exciting, and how can we also set the school apart from other schools? So that hits on everything, so I absolutely love it. 2 things, I think Greg needs help. So what can we do to get him help that isn't gonna be a huge financial burden? I mean, contractors and whatnot obviously are extremely expensive.
Sure.
Right, so that was where I was going, was how can we maximize some very talented, skilled community members and get them involved in this project and make it a community effort for execution. I'm not sure where to begin with that, but
Well, right here right now,
I
it's
think
advertisement
I
right
think we
there,
need to do that.
What, again, assuming this gets approved, what would be the timeline?
Well, we obviously need to meet and talk about that, but the timeline, I mean, we're looking at potentially starting to take out the circulation desk over spring break. And start moving some stuff so that we can, the most important thing will be to get the floor in, so that then this summer we can get everything else in. And we have a space to move some books and things like that too.
The new furniture that was purchased with the grant will be here at the end of April already, which we didn't anticipate. They told us it would be 6 months out and it's coming earlier than we thought.
But the floor will be, the floor and paint are the first 2 things that we need to do, so if over spring break we can get started on some of that. And things like that probably would be a good time to do it.
Okay. Yeah, I was just asking with the question of the volunteering, for getting that communication out, getting people interested, getting people to commit, and then making sure their schedules coincide. That takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, we'd like it open, obviously, day 1 next year.
Okay.
Before day fully functional.
Just another idea, some of the spaces, the creativity, flexibility that's shown in seating, study areas, reminiscent, at least 10 years ago, of the charter school that we had here, instead of the traditional desk tables. There's gotta be a plethora of, unless it's all been thrown out.
Well, you would think there would be, but
I would
we've
hope there
repurposed them.
would be.
That's been repurposed into other classrooms and is
Yes.
being used right now in those rooms.
I guess I would just ask you
Yeah.
to check that resource for ideas and unique kinds of ways kids could get together and sit in a space or whatever.
Yeah, we talked about that. We have a storage room in the basement at Northern, so we're always looking down there.
It's at North Shore Middle School.
So how do we put essentially the call out to people? I think there will be people that wanna help, but we need the people with the right skill set. Because we don't wanna spend $40,000 on a tree and have it installed wrong or something is broken on it or whatnot, so.
Sure, so we can utilize the newsletter. We can add it to any kind of outreach, but I will say this to you. Greg has a background of skilled finish carpentry.
Awesome.
So his background is incredible. He's a former cabinet maker, understands all of that to the nth degree. So I would still have him project manage and help him, let him determine whether or not he needs help, truly, and whether or not that's something we need to do. So we will certainly sit down together, build a plan out, share that with you so that you understand and stay focused. And then, of course, if we need volunteers to go forward, we will look at doing that.
This might be a good area for the Hartland-Lakeside Foundation to partner with us. Pardon me?
Good callback.
Okay. You got anything, Amy?
Only question I had, and again, I'm thrilled, I think this looks lovely. On the budget that we were given, it mentioned a building brick walls, but I don't remember that in your presentation, but you have makerspace instead, or are those kind of switched out for each other?
The more we looked into Lego walls, which is what that was, the more people were saying that the kids don't really like having to put it on the wall. You know, visually, it's not as fun as building your own 3D tower.
Okay.
And we found that the adhesive doesn't hold on the wall as long as you would think, and there's a lot of maintenance to it.
Okay.
So we decided to go more the light bright and the flannel board because those are more stable, and then allowing the kids to do the Legos on the floor and the table because they
Okay, so then the cost of opening up that makerspace is included in the building brick walls, or that's accounted for in this budget someplace?
I think that's Greg.
All Greg, okay. Sorry.
It's actually good.
I did not put Greg in here, although I should have.
Okay. That was it?
Jeffrey?
Well, all my questions were answered, but I want to say thank you for all your hard work, 'cause I know there was a lot of hard work that has gone into this so far. I know there's a lot more hard work to go into this in the future, and I love how engaging this is. This is the heart of the school. I love how new it is, and I'm really excited, and we'll see what happens with our vote.
Is there any discussion on the flooring?
I don't think so. Greg answered the questions I emailed him.
Okay.
I looked at the three, and the one that was the lowest actually looked the best too. It was the most comprehensive as far as describing exactly what we're gonna do. For example, none of the other ones clearly identified that they're gonna be removing all of the other supplies. This one said, removal, replacement build, so hats off to finding a nice contractor. That, the lowest bid in this case looks like hands down the correct bid.
And that's the Adair one, correct?
That's the Adair, correct.
I'm gonna throw one more thing out, and you guys probably already have had this idea, but like an opening ceremony for the
Keep those scissors.
Oh, yeah.
Who's got the scissors?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's what
Somebody's
this
got the
is.
scissors.
Okay,
Let's
got
use
it,
those.
okay, I'm
You got the
sorry.
scissors.
Okay, yes, I remember you saying the scissors now. All right, well,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposal to remodel the North Library as presented.
Dollars.
Hold on.
Amy has it right here.
For,
There you go.
are we doing the total cost?
It's up to us.
I think it's
That's
just
kinda what-
the
it's the
$40,000
unallocated,
for the
correct.
puppetry,
Yeah.
and then probably specifying which flooring we wanted to use.
So approving it as presented using Adair as the flooring vendor and allocating $40,000 to complete the project.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Love that, love that, so excited. You won't be disappointed, I promise.
Can we bring prior graduates back, Heather, to enjoy the library? I think we need to have after hours so we can bring prior graduates back to enjoy the new library.
Yeah, I know.
Right, all right, on to maybe a less fun topic here, but, transportation discussion and decision.
Sorry, I was so excited about the library, I forgot I had another thing. Okay,
Thank you,
Bye.
have a good night.
Thanks, Ben. Right, go get some rest, we're gonna need you
I gotta go to work.
Get the wood.
Yeah.
You got a lot of stuff.
We do love Greg, he's fantastic.
No, I think that's, I didn't know that he was a carpenter, so that's amazing.
Yeah, that's great skill.
That makes all the difference.
Yes. Well, as promised, we wanted to give everyone a transportation update, on what we've done so far, our findings. Just a reminder why we started this. Number one was safety, safety of our students, equitable access for all families to getting their kids to school, and then of course being fiscally responsible, in what we're doing as a district. There's a lag. What the state says, a district needs to provide for transportation is that it's for students living 2 or more miles from their school, that we will consider unusually hazardous areas for students under 2 miles. Children with disabilities will be transported within that law, as well as private school students. So when I started with the district, there was an assumption that certain areas were automatically considered hazardous. Reviewing the law, it's not an automatic. So what we did was we focused on 4 areas right away that we know a lot of our students are being transported from, but were considered hazardous. I did bullet point those up here. Barton Avenue, Hawks Nest subdivision we just used because it's the first big subdivision right here without sidewalks. The crosswalk on KE, so when I say that, it's the one right across from the middle school, and then the railroad crossing, which actually impacts all of our schools, depending on which way you're coming.
Which railroad crossing?
Right over here.
On KE or in downtown?
The one on
Maple. Like by
So-
Nixon.
That's the
Downtown, the Maple one.
Is that what you
Yeah.
said, downtown? Thank you.
Yeah, Maple.
So we did have the Waukesha County Police Department come out, and the highlighted is what they consider to be unusually hazardous. So they looked at Merton Avenue and said yes, they said Hawks Nest subdivision, yes, absolutely. But they did not think the crosswalk was unusually hazardous because of the lights and signs and things we have going on right now, and the railroad crossing, they did not as well, because there were sidewalks and lights and things right there too. So we did submit those 2 highlighted plans to the state. I have not heard back quite yet for approval, I'm assuming it'll be soon, and I'm assuming there would be nothing that they would consider from those recommendations. So in November, we did a ridership study or survey, and at that time there were 469 students that were on the bus. 199 of those who rode the bus in November were less than 2 miles from their school. So that's almost half, 42% of our students. Based on those students that were surveyed or were on the bus at that time, only 17 of them would fall under an unusually hazardous plan, which is about 9%. So that is a big difference. We did just do a ridership survey last week, so I'm still pulling that information together, just to see if there's other students that weren't on that particular day in November, but I'll have that shortly. So, having that information in front of me, I propose the next steps is that we continue to identify other potential areas for sorry, now I'm going into benefits. Holy cow, okay, unusually hazardous transportation plans. I would like to create a transportation committee, to look at other factors and considerations for students. I know I've talked about crossing guards and that those are harder to come by. We've talked about other signage, crossing, things we can do in sidewalks. There's just a lot to consider. No sidewalks, some sidewalks ends here. What I would like to do is continue our current bus schedule until I have an actual complete transportation plan, because when we started this, I don't think we realized all of the things that we really needed to look at. And then based on what we are able to find, I would like to bring back considerations for transportation policy, because our policy does read and it follows the state statute at this point, but that might change based on the students that we're looking at. And then implement a new transportation plan, not this upcoming year, but the following year, which is a lot. But just so you understand, like, what I'm considering for the transportation committee, that they would help develop a plan that is safe and equitable for all students. There is a lot of research that we need to do around our schools for other potential hazards, and that is looking at, the sidewalks and signage and crossing guards and things of that nature. And then I would like to involve other stakeholders, so get the local police involved, some parents if they're interested in being in the transportation committee. I myself do not live in this area, so I need people to help me identify where those areas are that children might be walking to school. Just the fiscal part, just so everyone is aware, and a reminder, because I think we brought this up. Last year we received almost $14,000 for transporting students. At this time, based on the hazardous plans I have in place, I will be able to bill for those 17 that have ridden the bus that are less than 2 miles, and then there's still 270 students that are over 2 miles that I will also be able to bill for. So funding, it's not a huge impact, but it will come down a little bit. So we're looking at potential state funds for about $9,700 for the current year. So at this time, looking at all of this information, the consideration or recommendation that I would like to make to the school board is that we continue to follow our current district transportation policy, just so that we're not changing it at this time until we have more information. That we could offer pay-to-ride contracts to those families that live less than 2 miles from their school. This is something that other school districts do. When Tina did her presentation or community forums, she had surveyed other feeder schools in our area, and their rates vary. Some had $100 per way, some were doing the $743 that we do currently for some families that do pay to ride. We're just proposing, and we just threw a number out there, that it would be $100 per student. Obviously, you can determine a fee or no fee tonight based on what we would want to do for this upcoming year. We always consider those free and reduced families, so those fees could be waived or reduced as well for those that qualify. And then to form the actual transportation committee to look at all the things for transportation, walking, just safe arrival basically at schools, and then to roll out that official plan in 25-26. Just giving us that extra year to really dig into this. It has been this way for a long time, so it's taking a little longer to unravel, but I think we're on the right path. Do you guys have any questions?
So I would like to interject here, just because this is hard, this is really hard work. When things have been being done for such a long time and to varying degrees, you have to go to ground zero. You have to go back to the foundation and start over. So that's really what we came to. There was no way for us, trust me, there is no way people aren't going to be frustrated, upset, disappointed, maybe angry at whatever may have to happen. But we have to get to a place where we're equitably transporting students to school in a safe manner. And we just haven't been doing that. Imagine being a family who is paid, having the opportunity to pay to ride right now and has for the better part of the last 10 years, and this has been longer than that, been paying $743 a year to have their child ride the bus, only to find out that others are on the bus at no cost. What an absolute gut-wrenching and horrible feeling that would be for those families. And I apologize for that on behalf of the district. But it's because of that we have to do this work. So whatever this board determines to do, I guess what we would like to see is a gap year. And I think that's kind of where we're at, a place that can bridge us between the way we've always done things to a new beginning, to a new plan that will sustain us and help us keep it going the right way. However that needs to look and whatever you need to do as a board, it's not an easy decision. And I don't think anybody that's listening or watching here tonight envies that role, right? But it is absolutely something that we have to take care of now for the future of the district. So that all being said, that doesn't mean that futuristically we don't look at saying, hey, let's put all of our kindergarten through second graders on a bus. Let's bus all of North, right? Then we have to figure out how we're gonna do that, right? But right now we're just saying, let's just follow policy, right? Policy says anybody below 2.0 walks unless they're in a hazardous zone, which is identified by the state, okay? That's kind of where our ground level is. And then if you wanna ride the bus, that's okay. Anybody under 2.0 can ride the bus. Sign a contract, pay whatever dollar amount the board says, and we'll build a contract out and we'll get you on a bus. That's the ultimate question that you have tonight, is to come up with that solution. So, thank you. I guess I just wanted to take that moment to say, this is hard. I get it, it's hard.
Are you guys done or is the floor open?
Floor is open.
Can I, just one quick question. Just to help set the context, the amount that we're gonna get back from the state, that you'll be able to bill the state this year is about $9,000. And if you can please refresh us what our total transportation budget is?
It's about $500,000 right now.
Yeah.
There's regular education, there's special ed, which is not in this number at all because they would qualify. And then we do have some private pay contracts for private school, which is going to be about $36,000 this year.
Okay.
Meaning we receive or we pay?
We pay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
I'm good. No, we talked about this a lot in finance,
I have some.
Chris, go ahead.
Thank you, I have some comments. So first, I saw at least one set of eyes, Morgan, pop up when we heard private school. Please keep in mind that I had the exact same eyeball pop when I found out that we were busing private school students as well. It's a statutory requirement, so it's not an HLSD policy decision. That's a statutory requirement, it's not our choice, just so the public knows and those listening here. So that's number one. Let's see, I have a few notes here. So to clarify in the suggestion for the next year, when we say to keep as is, and if we assign a dollar amount for the pay to ride, I want to confirm that that pay to ride won't follow or will be extended perhaps with special board action to modify the policy such that no one is denied. Because technically, according to the policy, pay to ride can be bumped by those that are over 2 miles and entitled to ride by statute. So if we adopt this, I would suggest to my colleagues that we do it with special action to guarantee that anyone choosing to pay to ride can.
The only thing I would caution you with that on, and I don't disagree with you, Chris, I think you're spot on, but at what cost? So let's say.
I didn't get to the cost yet, I got more notes.
No, right, but if somebody's, I'm just saying, if somebody's guaranteed a pay to ride and you're 2 kids over, you're paying $26,000 for that bus to ride those 2 kids. So that's a consideration, that's all I'm saying.
And it's a great one, and we should talk about that now, this might be a long meeting. But because of the fact that we've been doing it incorrectly for so long, anything that we do now that we're aware, needs to be equitable.
Correct.
So as far as I'm concerned, I don't care what it costs, to be equitable, we have to allow anyone that wants to pay to ride. Otherwise, we're showing preferential treatment to, well, Jeffrey, you rode the bus, well, maybe 10 years ago. But you rode the bus last year, but since Amy didn't, I'm sorry, it's gonna be $25,000 for you to ride, so you can't. I just don't, there's not a way to make that equitable.
Unless you take like 0.5, like you say, okay, 0.5 to just under 2 miles. Unless you put
Yeah,
something
again,
there.
it's just
Yeah.
something that I wanted to bring out
100%.
as a comment, yeah.
I was gonna say, maybe, to your point, and I completely agree with that, because the current policy says that if the buses get too full, over bus number,
Yeah,
then the most recent people who have been paid to ride on get moved off.
Correct.
We could change that where it's like a distance from school, so like pay to ride, the closest students who are paid to ride are the first to be removed from the bus if there's not enough room, rather than paying for a whole new bus until it becomes more feasible.
Sure.
But I completely agree, I think
As
we need
long
to
as
build
we create some
something
sort of an
into
equitable
policy,
solution,
yeah.
that's the key, is everyone deserves to be treated equally.
Yeah.
So if we
Yeah.
do that, okay, good, thank you. Well, I'm glad we're at least on the same page there. One thing I wanna point out for the public and anyone here that didn't catch it, is if we do assign a fee, we still have free and reduced options, and we still have a financial hardship application process. So if someone can't afford or struggles to pay for the dollar amount that's assigned, whether it's $20 or $500, there's a process in place to guarantee that children will have a way to get to school. Similar to if someone is a little behind in food, they're going to eat. So just keep that in mind. And then also, I'll remind everyone here too, that this is a service, and it's not necessarily applicable to everyone. So while my heart does bleed for it, and my own children are 4, and next year they're gonna be 5, and maybe we're just under the 2 miles. I still wouldn't feel comfortable, I wouldn't let my kids, I'd find some way, Uber or something, there's no way I'd let them, they'd get lost on the way home. So, but it's still a service, and there's a cost to it. And I don't necessarily think it's fair to all of the taxpayers to say, well, we screwed up, so just pay for everybody. We'll just bear the burden. It's just taxes. No, they're just tax, it's real money. So to keep that in mind when we look at the fee. I know it breaks my heart, but we're a family of 4. And if I want to splurge, it's a big splurge, go to Olive Garden with my 2 kids and wife, it's gonna cost $100. So when you put the cost of what we're talking about in perspective, if you wanna take a family of 4 to a movie and dinner, you're gonna be over the $100 suggestion. Or at least placeholder, I'm not even saying necessarily, I don't think I heard from Amy, you're suggesting 100? It sounded like you just put a number as an example.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted everyone to hear that and think about that from a perspective standpoint. Again, just a moment, let me finish.
No, I was just gonna add something, no, the $100 also was a recommendation from the finance committee, so it wasn't just Amy picking a number out of her hat, it was one of the things that we discussed at
So
finance
that's an
committee.
official recommendation from the committee?
It's one of the things, options that we discussed.
You talked about it?
We talked
So it's
about
not a recommendation?
Not a recommendation, but that's what that came from,
Okay,
from the
okay,
discussion we
okay.
were having.
So, and I don't mean to belabor it, but again, I just wanna keep perspective on this. That again, if you wanna go to a dinner and a movie with your own family, it will cost, if we followed the $100, it would cost more to do that than to get a ride to and from school every day where your children are safely transported back and forth for the whole year. So as much as my heart bleeds, we should keep perspective. Okay, that's my piece for now.
That $300,000 number, wasn't there a $300,000 number floating around somewhere? Wasn't that what if everyone was charged the appropriate 700
Just so you know, the $743 amount is the rough average of all of the schools in the area to transport regular education students.
Part of the co-op, right?
Yes, so we send our information to Arrowhead, they gather from all of us, and they come up with the average cost per student. So that's where that number comes from, so it's about $743 per student per year for them to transport. So even at $100, it is reduced.
And I did forget to mention in my comments, forgive me for speaking out of turn. I wanted to congratulate and thank you and Superintendent Vogelman for finding this. For finding this. This has been going on for a long time, and you found something tremendous. So my hat is off to both of you for doing that. Thank you for uncovering it. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. So my concern is 100 is not even close to 743. That's the actual cost.
Is that per child or per family?
That's per child.
Per child.
Per child. Thank you.
We charged people $100 this coming year, and then we get closer to that true number. People are not gonna understand. Why did you do 100 and you could operate the system at 100 and now you're raising it to this the following year? I just think what we do now is going to set the tone for that final plan, and that is a drastic difference, 100 and 743. And, I mean, we're still eating it, like. Tom, you got anything?
Oh, yeah. I thought it'd be polite for a while, especially this guy. My turn?
Yeah.
First thing I would request, I mentioned it before, it's not a real big deal, but in any of our proposals or future discussions, could you, Amy, please reaffirm how distances are measured? Because frequently people might say, oh, we looked at Google Maps, et cetera, et cetera. I think we should go without saying that measuring distance as the bird flies or something along that line is not appropriate. So I don't mean to make extra work, but somebody does need to figure out exactly that distance. I would suggest if it's close to 2 miles, call it 2 miles. Just some basic guidelines. Second, it's in response to Chris, I'm not trying to start a debate. I think it's perhaps commendable, maybe even ideal, to think whatever we come up with, and I talked to Tina about this earlier, and it's a compliment to her and to all your staff. This is like opening up the proverbial Pandora's box. Little did we realize what was in there, but we can't close the box. And that said, I don't see any way, shape, or form that this, even with its best intentions and hardest work, will be equitable. Fair should be our goal at this point. Equitable, maybe, but not realistic. So fair. Third, when in doubt, even the slightest doubt, there needs to be unequivocal emphasis on the safety and well-being of our children, period. I would not be a pleasant person to be around if we saved $100 on transportation for a family and that kid got hurt or worse. There's no defense to that. So we want to call it a public duty, responsibility that we have in our community. I think that's got to be one of our guiding principles. I don't know, 3, 4, whatever. Chris can keep track. There is going to be hardship. And again, not to be irresponsible with taxpayer money or at the expense of not being quite fair. Again, I would rather, my position is, I would much rather get that kid to school safely, not have a distraught parent who's overwhelmed and sick and take your pick, whatever else family emergencies going on, that they can't get that child to school on time and safely. And due to circumstances beyond one of our children, I would hate to have them miss a day or whatever of school because car broke down, take your pick. So I think when we put that on a scale, again, we've got to favor that kid being in school safely. These should be our guiding principles. How do we monetize that? That's a good question. I don't have an answer. And that's something to be determined. And it's not going to be equitable in my mind, but it should be as fair as possible. Lastly, I would be very curious, maybe you've already done the homework or somebody could help with this. How old? Is this a statute? Is this a DPI regulation? I would like to know some history on this background of these guidelines to determine who gets bused, who pays, all that type of thing. I think we need to look into that. If it's a statute, I think we should get our political representatives involved on both sides. Explain the situation, use our resources like WASB, associations that you belong to, school district, business managers, things of that nature, get them involved. We may need to change the statute, we may need to challenge a DPI rule, I don't know. So before we assume the rule is valid, it may have been passed 50 years ago, 30 years, I don't know, and it's not applicable today. I would also be curious, and if you could do any background, I can't imagine one rule like we've been trying to reconcile here. I can't imagine one rule being applicable in an urban area or a rural area or a suburban area. It's impossible. Our conditions are different. So I'd say before we get too far down the road, let's not assume a lot of the things are valid. Let's not assume things cannot be changed at a legislative or a DPI level. Let's get other stakeholders involved here, like our politicians as well. So I just request that. But again, bottom line in my mind, there's got to be no substitute for the safety of our kids. If that means paying a crossing guard $40 an hour, it's worth it. If it means maybe finding a robot. Well, yeah, I'm not disagreeing or back, but I'm saying if that means coming up with some other bright idea to get the kid from one side of the street safely to the other side, then let's do that. If it means tunneling under the street, let's keep all these possibilities in mind, or a little bridge over the top.
So I think everything you're saying is valid, and it's all part of why we want a bridge year. It's all part of why we want that.
May I respond to that?
Yeah.
If we can get it done in 1 year.
No, but I mean, it is a state statute.
We're saying the same thing.
Yeah,
I don't need to make it more difficult.
Yeah,
It's
so I think what you're saying is valid. I do agree with where you're at with that. But remember, that's why you're a local school board. That's why it's a local governing board, is because the state statutes are placed by state government, right? And so now it comes to the local school board to make the determination. And so whatever that looks like, this board could decide, yep, we're gonna bus everybody, to heck with the state statute. You have the right to do that, but we have to make sure that we do the research and we get all of the information, just
Exactly.
as you are
Yes.
saying, so that
Yes.
we can do that. We can't do all of that tonight. We have to just get a bridge, and that's where we're at. So you, absolutely what you're saying is what we need to do. Agreed.
Could I have the
Probably
floor?
a few more, but I'm
Yes, Jeffrey.
So I really like the committee idea. I think there are gonna be some concerned parents that are gonna wanna come in and talk to you about what their concerns are. We have the number, the average student or per student per year number for the average costs for the transportation. Is there a need to go lower than that just because we need this bridge year? I know we talked about $100 and that was just an imaginary number, just to have it there, but it may seem like a lot, but Chris, you were even putting it into perspective about safety, and Tom, you were really emphasizing safety as well. I feel like if families can't pay that amount, you know, they would have to come talk to the school district and figure that out themselves, but I do think that we would be putting the taxpayers and us in a really tough position if we didn't, and the future board as well, making that decision, if we didn't go with that number that we already have, that cost. So I think that's important to keep in mind. And there's a lot of moving parts to this. There's so much more I could say, but I mean, that's just kind of the start. And what would be like the ideal motion for this transportation update? Yeah, because I'm trying to think ahead of.
So I think as far as the motion is concerned, so I will dial back just for a quick second just to respond, right?
Okay,
And normally it's not like this kind of, but just to say that we have to remember that we have a big population of open enrollment in and out. And so we have surveyed all of the area districts, and they aren't anywhere near the 743. We have one other district that is close to the 743.
Yeah.
We have done that for a select few. So just remember that one of the goals that I've been tasked with is to make sure that we continue to bring people in, and we're doing that right now. Right now, we're attaining that. We start going 743 on them, I think we're gonna see people have the opportunity to go elsewhere. Because remember, even if you're open enrolling into another district, so long as you can get to a bus stop that is in the district of the place that you wanna go, you can get on the bus. So we are a little up against that, right? And until the consortium all agrees that this is the dollar amount that we're gonna charge, that is an element of this, and the board can do what it wants to do, but I'm just saying that's something that we do absolutely have to take into consideration. As far as the motion is concerned, it's a motion to follow the statute, or to follow the current existing Hartland-Lakeside School District policy for transportation with the pay-to-ride being offered to all students at a dollar amount. That would be what the motion would be, I believe.
Do we foresee issues with those that have been paying the 743 diligently for years and suddenly them realizing, wow, all these people have been riding for free and I have been paying this bill for years upon years?
Oh, yeah.
I mean.
Sure, I mean, I get it, and I said that from the very beginning, right? It's gut wrenching, right? That would be gut wrenching to find that out, but I guess that's where I'm like, if we don't go 743, now everybody's down. I don't think there's, just like I don't know how. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to make it okay. All I can say is that we're trying to make it okay now. And you're right, there are gonna be people who have paid an astronomical amount and others who didn't pay anything. I can't answer to that. I don't have any idea why or where. And I don't know what we would do as a district to make up for that, right, to those people, outside of just asking for grace and apology and just saying, this is where we're at and this is how we're gonna go moving forward. I don't know, I don't know.
What is the lowest charge from one of our feeder, like, out of the feeder schools, what's the lowest amount they're charging?
One does indicate that it was $100 per way. We don't know exactly if that.
Yeah,
So basically 200 a person.
200 per person is what you could assume from that, yeah.
Is our current charge of $743 per student or per family?
The district had decided to do per family. 2 other districts in our area do per student. The cost is per student though. For whatever reason, again, I don't know when that was adopted by our district, but we changed it to per family.
So ours is per family,
The current policy.
the current is $743.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, Arrowhead is $743 per student, just in the event that people wanna know that.
So if you have twins or triplets or 3 kids, in our world, it's $743. You go to Arrowhead, it's $2,100 plus, $2,200.
Correct.
Amy?
Hi, okay. So to answer Tom's question, I've read the state statutes on transportation. Everything that's been outlined by administration follows state statute. There's no differential between rural versus suburban versus city. It's just state statute. The other point that I want to emphasize is one that Superintendent Vogelman made, is that when we do pay to ride, it's with the understanding that the family has to get their student to a current existing bus stop. Okay, so it doesn't mean we're gonna be creating a whole bunch of extra bus stops. They have to get somebody to that bus stop, which I think when we look at this, for those 182 students, right, that have been riding for free, but we now know shouldn't be, right? And we're thinking about the bus routes that we currently have. I would suggest that for next year, we keep bus routes as is, so that is during that year of transition, we're not changing anything. Otherwise, we'd have to redesign our bus routes to say, okay, our bus routes are only for the kiddos that are more than 2 miles away and for the 17 families that fit, or those families that fit the unusual hazardous plan. And then we're changing bus routes and upsetting all of that as well. So I would add to the recommendations that we keep bus stops as is while we think about how much we want to charge. The other thing that I would suggest and throw out there to the rest of the board is this is a big decision with a huge potential financial impact on our families. In months, years prior, when we had policy discussions or big decisions like this, we often had 2 readings. So that gave us a chance as a board to think about things, and more importantly, it gave the public and stakeholders a chance to give some feedback as well, and to come and express their views and email us. I know that we need to have notice to families out by May 15th, and we need to have a change in policy into Dosman by June 1st. So we could potentially table this, or whatever the appropriate motion is, to make a final decision on the board at the March meeting, so that we give time for all of the board members to think about the consequences of this, and also for us to get feedback from the rest of the community. And so that would be a proposal I'd want to put out there. And I don't know what the administration thinks about that, if that pushes you too much up against a timeline.
It does not push me against a timeline. For Dousman, we do give them our student list in June, so that they can start working on bus stops. Obviously, they don't start that probably the second we hand it to them, but we would want to give them as much notice as possible of what might be coming their way. And that's just to help them as a vendor, as well as help them because they're working with all the other schools out here as well. If we do pay to ride, that will be different, so we will be doing some sort of sign up so that we can identify those families that still want to ride the bus. So that process I would probably want to start May into June, just so that we can get that information again, because if we're going to follow policy and some families are like, I don't need to ride the bus, we can drop off or carpool or something. I want them to have that option too and have time to decide. We were going to hold a community forum, so just to update families, and we can do that at whatever time.
I mean, I feel like we've already talk this to death. We've already had actually 2 community forums, if I remember correctly. We've talked about it, I think this is like the 2nd or 3rd time as a board. We've talked about it in finance. I don't think delaying it to try to get more input is gonna help us in any way. We've already given the opportunity for input. And I mean, your input ended up being on behavior. It didn't seem like you really got input from the community
But I
on
think
this.
right now I will address it. I think there are a lot of rumors out there that are inaccurate. I think there's a lot that's being tossed out in the community about this transportation thing. And I think I do think the longer we delay it, the worse it's gonna be, because that ball's rolling. I have been approached by families in regard to, just make the decision, just let me know so that we know what we're doing. Because I have to make decisions too, I'm gonna open enroll, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that. So just continuing to talk about it, you're absolutely right, people have had 3 months to come to me and share what they have thought. I've been very open and very transparent. I've brought it forward on every single thing that I have done, and I haven't had anybody really call me. It's just when they see me at another open forum that they want to bring that question back to me. It seems that it wants to be talked about rather than talked to, which is one of the things that I struggle with, but we'll get there. I would rather let's talk about it here with me. Ask me your questions and let me help understand and guide this, rather than always having to be reactive and try to, answer to a bunch of things that just aren't reality.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I agree, we've had 2 transportation forums, community forums. I was able to attend one of them. And the topic or subject of that transportation forum was just more addressing the fact that we had a problem and that we were going to be looking into it and identifying unusually hazardous transportation areas. It wasn't to this granular level now of trying to figure out pay to ride and prices and financial impact of it. So yes, so we've had 2 community forums on it. It was just a general initial overview, more of like a discovery session. This is what we found. We're going to be making adjustments and going over this. I don't think it's been on this level. Now, please correct me if there's been another avenue for where parents have been made aware of the fact that we might be making this type of decision that has financial consequences on them or not. Because I don't think we've had given.
I've done presentations here where we've addressed it directly, and I will say this too, as far as hosting another open forum, I want you there with me then, because here's
I was there at one of the 2.
Yeah, so because you're gonna have every person who thinks that they should be able to ride the bus for free, or somebody who's upset at it is going to be a bunch of opinions and a bunch of thoughts and a bunch of stuff coming at, and no decision is it's gonna be just it'll just be this open blah, here it is.
So there were the 2 community forums that were held on separate nights during that 1 week a few months ago.
Same day, one in the morning, one in the night.
Okay, yeah. What were the other ones?
We didn't have forums on those. The other forums are, what was it, open enrollment, I got asked questions, those forums that I've had, the behavior ones I've
But
had.
nothing else specific on transportation?
I've not held a forum, but I have presented it at every board meeting, under every superintendent message.
Well, correct, but at least per my notes I have from January, I'm not trying to be argumentative here. I'm just trying to say that I don't think we've given the community the opportunity to have input on this specific question. Because per the last time, we talked about policy and cost, but we didn't talk about deciding on a pay to ride fee, or more importantly, who we were going to assess that to. And just, anyway, that's my 2 cents.
That's our decision to make though.
Right, but it's also, well, it is, because we are responsible, it's our decision to make, but I think it's also appropriate for us to provide the community the opportunity to provide feedback, and then it's our decision, completely.
Which we did.
But not on this specific issue. So that's it, I've made my point. I'll shut up now. Chris?
No, I appreciate it. Just a couple responses. First is to Tom, thank you, I agree with everything that you said. Keeping the children having an opportunity to ride is definitely a priority for me, I would assume for everyone. And it's more about how do we
allocate funds to make sure that that happens, and what are we charging? So it's not a question of if they're gonna get there safe, it's just a whether or not there's gonna be a fee and what that fee is going to be. And Amy, I understand where you're coming from with it, having that specific meeting, but this is the board's decision. It has been brought up month after month after month. And it's really, correct me, I think you said 199, correct?
Yeah.
182.
Well, 182 with the 17.
180, give me one of my questions I want to clarify. There's 182 families potentially impacted on this that would not be included, and then they'd have to pay.
Right. So it's 182?
Right, there was 199 that are less than 2 miles, but 17
17
that are
okay.
are hazardous. So
Thank
they would not have to pay the ride because they're in.
199 minus 17 hazardous gives you the 182,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you, give us a global sum total dollar amount of what this liability would be to these 182 families? Which would equate also to a revenue loss. Is it for our school district?
So it'd be about 15, well, it depends on what the amount is. Where it's gonna go.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, and if we do per family or per student.
So just a minute, I wasn't done.
Yeah, go ahead.
speaking.
I was just gonna give him the numbers.
Neither was I.
I was speaking
I'm
first.
just giving
Thank you.
a-
All right, Chris has the floor.
So 182-ish families. And so while I understand wanting to get feedback, again, it's been out there, I wanna just reiterate, it's been out there. And it's ultimately the board decision. But this, we're playing with money. We're playing with money. And when you're playing with money, you're playing with money for thousands of people, not the 182. And so at your forums, your emails, good luck at getting a lot of the other thousands of people who are not affected by the bus to send emails and show up at a transportation forum. I was at both of them with Tina, and it was small groups. You would think that with this, considering 182 families, there'd be 50 at one and maybe 70 at the other, you get 120. No, they were small. So to continue to go back and ask, well, how should we vote? You're gonna get that 182 families that are going to have a comment, and most likely the 182 are gonna say, well, we don't wanna get it free this year. The thousands of other people who absorb that tax aren't going to have an opportunity or be engaged. I don't know how in the world, Vogelman's blog is nice, but I don't know how many thousands of people are watching it yet. So you can do a nice little post, and I'm pretty sure that the retired person on Maple may not see anything you say. And so then that person's voice isn't heard. So I would encourage us, when it's time to vote, that we make a decision tonight. Again, I'm not making a motion yet, I'm just suggesting to my colleagues that if we talk through this and come up with something that makes sense, my suggestion would be, do not delay this and make a decision this evening on the stopgap.
Especially since it's temporary.
Right.
Tom?
Going back to my question, what's the chunk of money that we're talking about that relate to these 182 families? Approximately.
You mean if they were paying the full 743?
You know what, I'm not sure how to phrase this question, but what kind of sum total of money are we talking about that either is gonna impact these families or that's going to be a potential liability or loss to our school district that should be close?
So Tom, I ran the numbers, so we
So the
charge
182 times,
743 is $135,000, 226. So that's the total amount.
135,000 is the round number for what we're
Correct.
talking about.
If we're going to charge each student, not each family, $743, because that 182 are students on the bus, not families on the bus. So we want to make sure, so some of the families, it's going to be more than that. if we charge per
We're
student.
family now.
No, we're family now, right?
We are
Correct.
family now.
But this number of 182 is students.
Right.
Not families.
Not families.
So depending on how we charge this, it could have a significant impact to people who have more than one child who are riding the bus.
But I don't think we
That
can
would
policy.
require a separate policy change.
Correct. Because right now we charge per family in policy, and we can't change a policy.
Yeah, let's not put another variable in there.
But aren't we changing policy by assigning the cost for next year? I mean, we're already changing policy.
Assigning the cost on a family basis or on a student basis is the question.
So if we change, from a policy standpoint, if we change how we're billing student versus family, that's deviating from policy. If we continue to bill per family and we allocate an amount, that's within our power to do that, because the policy, I'm not sure, says dollar.
It does not say
I didn't think so.
dollar.
So we would have the right as the board to be able to allocate that fee. We just couldn't change the structure of how it's billed without violating policy, so we'd have to send it back to policy, change policy,
So
come
it's
back.
gonna be
change
less
the
than
number.
130,000.
Amy, you're confirming that our current policy
Yes.
doesn't have a dollar amount?
It does not have a dollar
Okay.
amount. It does not say any of those things. I can download this and send it to you.
I'm not trying to make
It
it
was-
difficult, but I'm just trying to get a global number about what we're talking about, either impacting the parents totally, or the families, or the school district, if we go the other direction.
Do you know how many of those 182 are families? Did you and Amy
I
say?
have not had a chance to look
Two
at.
point two kids per family.
Yeah, there are obviously families that have multiple students that ride a bus. So that is a potential impact. And we only have 21 families, just so you know, that are paying right now, the private pay, the 740.
Oh, there's 21.
But when I do look at our current policy, it does not state a dollar amount or even a per family or per student option. The policy has not been updated since 2014. So it's been more than 10 years since the board has even looked at this particular policy.
For some reason, I can't get internet connection to load up current policies to check that. So can we make any changes to our current transportation practices and charging families right now if we don't have anything in our policy? Without redoing the policy?
Well,
PPC committee chair?
I'm trying to get how the current practice is handled. So the person in our office who handles that is writing that for me because it is not something that I'm currently involved in. So I don't even know how it got to that point. If it was just, again, this is what we've been doing and
Let's try to pick a number for starters. Anything, 100,000, 80,000,
For what?
based on families, not students. That would require a policy change, which I'd like to not get into tonight, unless. I'm just trying to get a global number.
We have no way of knowing how many families. We only know the students.
I get it, I'm just trying to.
well, and even the survey that we did, those were just the students on the bus on that particular day that we did the survey. As I was looking at the information from last week, there were some that were on the bus in November and some who were not. Not a huge swing because, so I'm assuming we'll end up close to that same number of students on a bus. I'm also going to do another survey that I sent to families, just to see if there's anyone that wasn't on the November or the February, that they know that their student has been on the bus. So right now I'm doing a best guess of the number of students who are actually taking advantage of that.
I'm asking you a difficult, if not impossible, I'm not trying to
Right.
give you a hard time. If I pick a number like $80,000, is that somewhere reasonable?
I guess I'm not understanding.
Okay, so if the school district would make a policy decision, a board decision, excuse me, to come up with $80,000 instead of pass the money on to the individual culpable families. I just am trying to get an idea of that number. You know,
Well, it would be whatever number the board decides, so, Amy, can you remind me of your number? If we charge $743 per student, it's the
$135,000 and change.
So if you wanna say minus 80,000 from that number, divided by 200 students.
Yeah. Which, by the way, that $135,000 and change, we're currently not getting anyway. So that would be a new source of revenue that we've not been operating on up to this point in time. Meaning it's not as though we're.
or
It
we
is,
could
but-
decide to split it instead of 130, phase it in over 5 years. Or we could decide, you know what, let's split it in half, 65 to the family, 65 to the school district. I mean, I think we have all kinds of options.
Which might be good for our final plan, but we need to come up with a gap plan for this upcoming year.
Yeah,
But I like your point about
I would say
phasing.
a couple things. Considerations like grandfather in the current people. If we are gonna do something that would be a financial impact to families, we can make a decision, which I would recommend, is to phase it in over 4 years, 5 years, whatever. I mean, we have a lot of options, which we should put on a board somewhere. And then we can try our best to be fair. It's not gonna be equal.
Well, if we take the 135 divided in half, so if you wanted to share that cost, that's about $67,500 divided by 200 families, that's $334 still per student. So we're under that right now. So if we were gonna share the cost, the number actually goes up.
And the justification for sharing is some of the items that I was mentioning. That would, I won't say rationalize, that would justify that we be partners in this, not make it an either or thing like it normally would be.
No, and I completely understand, and Tina and I are there too. We do not wanna make this a hardship for people. And I said to Tina, sometimes I wish I hadn't touched certain things.
No, you
Now I know.
didn't, you and we are doing the right thing. It's just like, now what are we gonna do? And I think there's a clear path forward. It's not gonna be perfect. But again, that path forward, I hope recognizes the considerations that I brought up. And, you know, if it's 80,000, how much is one kid worth? Not getting hit on the road or something like that. So that's my way of thinking.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to limit the debate to a final statement from each board member.
Okay. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Let's start with you, Tom. Make it quick.
All I'm gonna say is please make a note, the thoughts, recommendations that I raised tonight, including the last one of trying to find some kind of a dollar amount in ways that could be shared, buffered, whatever. So, and I listed all my other ones. I don't know if I can try to remember them again if necessary, but I would ask that be part of the equation, including possible legislative changes, et cetera, and that might be further down the line. And one of the other items is whatever we do, keep the priorities in mind, phase it in, maybe grandfather it, and these items should be addressed. So, thank you.
Chris?
I just want to remind everyone that whatever dollar amount we assign for anyone that has a financial difficulty paying, if there's a financial hardship, or free and reduced lunch. There's a process in place for those struggling to be able to communicate with the district to still access the bus. So as you deliberate on what decision we are going to make tonight, to keep that in mind, we are not taking busing away from anyone. We are assigning a dollar figure for the service for those that are underneath statutory requirement of the district for less than 2 miles. Also, I wanted to remind everyone that we have, as Tina stated, the ability to govern locally and pay for what we want as we see fit as a community. So again, if we decided to allow free busing for every student regardless of age, ability, or distance, we can do that. We cannot go against the statute though. That's the thing to keep in mind. We can't go against it, but we can be better than it if we choose. There is a cost. And then finally, I would like to say that I agree with Board Member Vanderstill on the cost. There have been people paying $743 per family per year to ride the bus. And if we do anything less than that, first of all, I would suggest that the motion would be to include those families down at a reduced rate. But I'm not even advocating for that. I would, like Jeffrey, suggest that the amount be the current amount, which is the $743, which, as Amy Holly pointed out, is still less than the real cost. So I hope the community hears that as well. $743 per family is not the cost to the district. So the district is absorbing more of that bus fee than what we are charging the pay to ride. That's per student as determined by Arrowhead. So those are my suggestions as we go and close debate and move to a motion.
I would like to say, if this was anything else and we discovered that we were losing all this revenue and had an opportunity to have $135,000 more to put towards things for our school district, it would be a different conversation. And that's not to say I don't care about families that could struggle with this, but it's a service we are offering, and services have to be paid for. And like Chris said, the $743 doesn't even cover the cost. We're already absorbing costs. I think that getting us to an even playing field, those 21 people that have been paying the $734, how do we say, oh, almost 200 people haven't been paying this for years, we're gonna, drop everyone down for a year to $100 or $200. Sorry. It makes sense to bring everyone who wasn't paying up to the correct amount that those 21 people were paying, and then say, we've gotta make it even. This is what we are charging. Only this amount of people were getting charged for it. We are now going to be charging everyone that correct amount. And then we're going to reevaluate for the following year the overall cost and all the other logistics that we've been talking about. Amy.
Okay. I don't feel that we can make this decision tonight because I do think it involves a change in policy. Looking at policy number 750, which is student transportation, there is no specific statement in there that outlines pay to ride and how much we're going to charge that I can find. So if we decide to charge an amount for pay to ride, that's a change in policy because that's not currently built into policy. The only thing that I can find specific to that is under the open enrollment, where it states the cost to transport each open enrollment student will be $239 per school year, adjusted annually, and that was back in 2002. But that's the only thing I can find in here about charging for pay to ride. So based on the fact that we don't currently have policy on this, and also to allow community input, because this is going to be a big financial burden, even if people don't qualify for reduced rate or have financial hardships, I think especially if we're thinking about $743, we should table this until next month's meeting so we can have PPC look at if it doesn't need to be a policy adjustment. Finally, as Superintendent Vogelman mentioned, 743 is at the highest limit of all the feeder schools in the area. If we're looking at trying to entice people to open and enroll in, I don't think we want to go at the highest level for that. I think erring on the side of staying lower would be better. And so if the board wants to move ahead with the motion tonight, I would suggest closer to the $200 per student per year, indicating the fact that that's going to be more of a financial hardship on some of our families.
As a board, we have an opportunity to make this fair for both the taxpayers and the people that would be paying, the parents that would be paying for their students to have transportation. I think it would be only right by making that fair is to use the $743 figure, which is what we have now and that's what Arrowhead follows, and I know that's the highest amount that we have from our feeder schools, and that number can be changed and probably will be changed in the future. However, I'm just trying to look at the best way to make this fair for everybody. And like I said, both the families that pay the taxes and don't have kids coming to school and the families that pay for the transportation. Yeah, really, that said my piece.
Tina, do you have anything to add? Do you have anything to add for the question about policy?
I guess the only thing about policy is if we don't have something in there now, then why have we been charging it all, right? So how is that a change in our policy if we've already been doing it? I guess that's my only question. And I too am not trying to argue anything. This is a huge undertaking, and if I come across defensive, it's because I go to bed every night thinking about this, right? And we have lived and breathed this transportation conundrum from the minute we discovered it, but I could have walked away from it. We could have easily just buried our heads in it and just walked away like so many may have done. But that's just not who we are as your administrators, and I guess that's my only question is if the hat is hung on the fact that we don't feel that that we would have to do a policy change, then I'm not sure how we were charging anywhere between 0 and 743 all these years.
So to clarify, it would not be a policy change because we don't even have a policy that addresses it? Is that your point? Okay.
And we should never, just so you know, put dollar amounts in here, because when I saw that our policy had numbers from 2002, that was alarming. But I get what you're saying, they can put a feeder ride in the future. I did just happen to pull up another neighboring district to see what theirs rate reads, and it does not refer to pay to ride or anything either. And that was just one random that I chose that I knew I could search quickly.
I caught some of what you said. They say you found another district that's got a similar scenario but doesn't charge anything.
No, I know that they charge a dollar amount, so I just went to their transportation policy to see how it reads, and it reads very similar to ours, because it says transportation for non-qualifying residents and open enrolled students. They do not list a dollar amount, but they do indicate the same process, that they can fill out a contract, request busing, if there's room on the bus, they can ride the bus, but at no point in here does it read that they would be charged anything. It does say low-income parents may apply to the DPI for reimbursement of cost of transportation, but that is the only thing I see as far as a fee. But this is just one of the local ones.
Chris made a good point, I'm sorry to interrupt. What is our cost per student to transport?
Ours is a little higher than the average. We're 8 something. I do not have that.
What?
We're a little higher than the average. We were 8 something.
We're 800 some dollars is what?
Yes.
our cost is per student
Okay,
approximately.
we made a motion to have final statements, so we can't keep going on with debate.
I make a motion to follow the current policy and set a pay-to-ride amount at $743 per family.
I'll second.
So how do I make a motion to table until next meeting?
You just make it.
Well, I know there's specific Robert's Rules of Order.
Well, we haven't,
It takes precedence.
there's a motion on the table, we need a vote.
Well, right, that's what but Chris is looking at
Just a
his
moment.
cheat sheet.
May we have a pause?
Yes.
So, Amy, what's your question of the motion you'd like to make?
I'd like to make a motion to defer our vote on this until the next month's meeting to allow community input, but I don't know
So
because.
you want to postpone to a
Jeffrey's-
specific time?
Yes, sorry, Jeffrey started speaking his motion before I had the opportunity to make mine.
I'll second it.
So I'd like
Now
to.
we have two motions that have been seconded, so just.
This is gonna take a moment now, and we don't have a.
Sorry, you spoke too quickly for me, so I'm gonna make sure everybody was all.
I've layered up.
Yeah, that's okay. Hold on.
Is someone taking copious notes? Because I'm participating now. To participate and take the notes, it'll be difficult, so.
I have you, yes.
You have me now?
Yes.
Okay. So we have, am I okay to summarize?
Yes.
We have two motions on the floor. There's a main motion to move forward with what Jeffrey said, and then there is a second motion which takes precedent to postpone to a specific time, which was the next,
The March, regularly scheduled March school board meeting.
which was seconded by Tom.
Tom.
And it needs a majority vote to be enacted. So right now, we need to vote on postponing to next month's meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chris?
You didn't say aye.
She's
I'm not
going
asking.
down the-
All opposed.
Yeah.
Oh, you said opposed now?
No, I didn't say anything. These two people said
Just Amy and I have
so
voted so
I'm
far.
asking you what your vote is, and then I'm gonna ask Jeffrey, and then I'm going to.
Procedurally, you can't. You're singling me out as a voter.
Okay, I see.
So you
Okay,
asked for
no,
a yes or no,
fair.
so now you have to ask
Okay.
for a no. Sorry.
No.
If you guys make
That's
me
what
charge
you're
of
here for.
governance, I'm
No,
gonna.
that's fine. No, that's why we love you.
So right now, there's a vote
Okay.
on the table. You have asked for the yeas. The
Yes.
yeas have been collected.
Yes.
We are now at the noes.
Wait, not everybody was asked to vote yet.
She asked for a collective.
We're not doing a name call.
She didn't do a
We're
roll
not
call.
doing a roll call.
She
Is
asked
his
Didn't ask
point.
for a roll call.
Right, but I'm making it a roll call, and that's his point.
Oh, halfway through.
Yes, yes.
So, Madam Chair, you need to now say, all those opposed, say no.
All those opposed, say no.
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 The noes have it.
Okay,
Motion fails.
so motion fails, we need a new motion.
No, the motion fails, we're back to
We're going back
the
to
main
the-
motion on the floor, which is.
I can restate it if you.
Please
Restate it.
I make a motion to follow the current policy and set a pay-to-ride amount at $743 per family.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, you have to have a
You
second.
already seconded.
It's already been seconded.
It's already been seconded.
It's up for a vote.
I was restating it.
He
That
was
the
just
motion.
restating it.
Yeah, that was kind of.
Can we amend it though? Propose
Sure
an
you can.
amendment in that it should not contain the word policy because we don't have current policy.
Can we
Yes,
get
you
it right?
can, yes, you can amend
you
it
gotta
with
make the
another
motion.
amendment.
So I would make a motion to amend Jeffrey's motion to take the word policy out because we don't have a specific policy on this topic.
I will second that.
So strictly pay-to-ride.
Wait, we gotta
you read
we gotta
That's fine.
approve
This
that
is
we're
where it gets
amending
real
it.
tricky.
Okay,
Yep.
alright, so all,
But wait.
I seconded it.
But before you do it, you have to restate it exactly what it is.
Okay, state it again.
Amy, can you please
As,
state
this
that?
is the amended proposal that's on the table.
You want to be amended?
With the word policy stricken out.
This is what Amy has proposed as an amendment to the main motion.
Well, then it will just say to follow the current.
Yeah,
And
so we would just set a pay to ride amount.
Yes.
But so right now I would state that new motion, correct?
No,
No, we have to vote
there's
on,
now a motion on the table to amend your original statement, removing the word policy.
As it
So-
pertains to the $743 thing.
Right,
So
but
it's policy first, and then institute a $743 per family pay to ride. That's how you would
Because-
say it.
that's,
Yes, so we wouldn't
Instead.
we wouldn't be following our policy, we just,
There is no policy.
we have one.
hold on, time out.
Yeah, Chris?
Point of order,
Yes.
point of order. Technically I have the floor because I called out point of order. So we are not following the rules at the moment. What has happened is Amy had made a motion to amend. She stated her amended motion to remove the word policy. That was the motion. That was seconded. That was approved. So all this other discussion cannot happen. We have to vote on the specific wording of her saying, remove the word policy. So, Amy Holly, would you please read the motion as it would be written, removing only the word policy?
to follow the current and set a pay to ride amount at $743 per family.
Thank you. So that's the motion that's been seconded, we have to
Yes.
vote on that.
so all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, all opposed.
No,
No,
that motion fails. We are back,
Sorry.
is it okay if I?
Yes.
Okay, so we are back to the main motion,
Right.
which was Jeffrey's motion to do it, follow
Second-
policy, and
seconded
it's been
by-
seconded, so that's what's back on the floor.
Seconded by
It was seconded
By
by
Chris.
Chris in the very beginning.
So that's what's currently on the floor. Does anyone want to make an amendment
I
motion?
make a motion to amend my motion. I would like to take out the following language. To follow the current policy and.
I'll second. So we now have a superior motion on the floor to amend the original motion. Amy Holly, would you please read back the new amended version for us to vote on?
Set a pay to ride amount at $743 per family.
Wait, the whole thing, please?
that was it?
That's it.
Just two? Okay, so now we have to vote.
Yeah.
Well, there could be discussion on it.
There should be
Right, because it's
discussion
been
on it.
seconded.
There should be discussion on it, and I have something to say if no one else
My
does.
suggestion, Madam Chair, may I have you recognized? My suggestion would be to vote down the original and start over with a clean motion that would allow it to be much easier to transcribe and to vote on. That's my recommendation to my colleagues.
seconded.
We have to make the motion. Are you making that
I
an
just made
official?
it.
I made, no.
No, that
we have
wasn't
a
an
motion.
official
So again, hold on, governance. Technically, we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded, that has to be voted on, and we are under discussion to accept the change to remove the words that Jeffrey stated. When Amy Holly read it back, my suggestion was it didn't make sense, and to let it die and to start over from scratch with a new motion. That was only a discussion point and not a motion, because there's already a motion to amend the first motion. So we're not voting on the entirety of the first motion, we're voting on amending the motion. Are we understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
So all in favor?
Right.
All in
So,
favor?
of the amended words.
All right, restate it with the amended words.
But now we have to say all in opposition, right? All opposed?
So
No,
right-
because we're voting in favor of,
So right now, it's voting to amend the main motion as stated by Jeffrey. To amend it,
not to pass it, to amend it. So Amy Holly, again, would you please read how the amended version would be written?
Set a pay-to-ride amount of $743 per family.
Okay, doesn't make sense.
Right.
So, I would say all those in favor of amending.
Okay, all of those in favor of amending?
Aye.
Nay.
Yeah, nay.
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 So that
Alright, motion passes, that's gone, start over.
So now we're back to the main motion, which is to, Amy Holly.
To follow the current policy and set a pay-to-ride amount of $743 per family.
I'd like to make a motion to amend.
Well, can.
To amend Jeffrey's motion by dropping the dollar amount of $743.
Sounds
good.
So.
Motion is to amend the main motion by stating to delete the dollar amount of $743.
Can't do that.
But he can make the amendment, and then none of us can second it.
Okay.
See, there's no second.
There's no second.
No second, okay.
Motion fails.
Motion fails.
Anyone have a new motion?
But we still have to vote on that motion, yea or nay.
Correct, so I
and whether or
motion to
not we-
close debate.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye. No longer is debate, the main motion's on the floor. So you can either roll call it or
I'm gonna roll call it.
you might wanna have.
Does everyone understand what motion is on the floor?
I would like.
The original is to follow the current policy and set a pay-to-ride amount of $743 per family.
And you're doing roll call, right?
Yes, I'm doing roll call.
Okay.
So I will start with Jeffrey.
Aye. Yes.
Amy?
Nay.
Nay.
No.
Tom?
Nay.
Motion passes.
Motion fails.
Or, I'm failed. I'm sorry, I'm so used to saying passes.
Amy Holly, your fingers are gonna be on fire tonight.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna make a motion to recommend Tiffany for the delegate assembly next year.
Okay, back to all
This is
seriousness.
exactly what happened a year ago. Which is, it's all legit, but this is exactly what happened and why they never got it done.
Okay. Jeffrey, you have something to say?
Does anyone have an idea how to word this motion?
Try to steer it out.
All right. Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to continue using the existing bus routes and charging families under 2 miles not in a hazardous zone $743 per family.
Have a question?
Can't yet.
We gotta have a second to have
You have to have a
discussion.
second.
Yeah.
There's no second, the motion fails.
Second.
Motion fails.
Tom, you got it.
Pardon me?
There was no second.
No second.
No.
Motion fails. I'm gonna make a motion to close debate on this.
Can't close debate on something, it's not motion.
This has been decided, it's been reviewed, it's been amended, and I think the issue has been decided and put to rest, and it doesn't need to be.
I'm going to make a motion
Oh, she's got it.
to charge, I can't say policy, the 334 that we had decided, that was half of the 135,000 that we would be making.
Repeat that amount, please.
$334.
$334.
Per family.
Per family. For those
For
that
this,
lie
for this,
within the
this gap year.
2 mile, lie within the 2 mile distance and not in a hazardous area.
Correct.
Is that, those are key points?
Did you get all of that, Amy?
I stopped typing with Tom, but I have to charge $334, half of the $135 per family for gap year for 2 miles.
Less than 2 miles.
No, it should be for over, I'm sorry, for less than 2 miles.
Less than 2 miles.
Not in a hazardous exclusion.
Okay. So, to charge $334 per family for gap year for less than 2 miles, not in a hazardous zone, is what I've heard.
With the option for the reduced, however we wanna word that.
The exclusion of those
The
who qualify
exclusion
for.
For those who qualify, yes.
Isn't that automatically there?
It is not an automatic,
It's
but,
not, okay, then I'm glad you said it.
yes. I'll reread though. To charge $334 per family for gap year for less than 2 miles, not in hazardous zone, with the option for those who qualify for free and reduced.
And can I make a quick amendment, please?
We don't have a second
We don't have a
yet.
second.
Right. I'll second it.
So you
Now
wanna
I'd like to
discuss?
make an amendment. This should be okay. To adjust Hartland-Lakeside School District policy to be in conformance with this.
From a governing point of order, you can't change the fundamental meaning of the motion with an amendment. You can only change the details of the motion and not change it entirely. The chair has to rule.
So that fails.
May I ask a question? How do we reconcile policy with a decision?
We're in the process of doing all of that, we're reviewing Neola's, this will all be addressed in our new policy.
Okay.
I make a motion to amend that once more. Per family,
Per family.
and now that ends my motion. Was that stated in the final motion, or am I just crazy I didn't hear it?
No, it wasn't in the.
It was in
was.
there.
It was.
It was in there?
$334 per family.
It was per family,
My apologies, I thought.
less than 2 miles, and not in a hazardous zone as identified.
Okay, second.
Can we have the motion read back? Make sure we're all clear
Yes.
before we vote,
Yes.
please.
To charge $334 per family for gap year for less than 2 miles, not in hazardous zone, with the option for those who qualify for free and reduced.
I'm gonna do roll call on this one.
Before we vote, just a quick question, does that, you mentioned free and reduced, but then that doesn't necessarily include financial hardship requests, so
That's how you judge finance.
I would like to, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to amend the main motion on the floor to include at the end of the motion or those seeking financial hardship
Support.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
You ready? Do you want me to read it back probably?
We just voted.
Well, we just voted.
No, but we voted on the
You
amendment.
don't need to.
It was,
What do you
it was
mean
on
by
an amendment, we now need to vote on the actual motion.
The free and reduced, that's the qualification criteria,
It's one criteria, I was adding a second layer.
as determined by what metric?
What the school district currently uses for
That's not in the
financial
motion.
hardship. I said financial hardship, there is a process that the school district currently uses for financial hardship.
Okay, all right, then I'll amend my vote to yes.
So we had an all on that?
We had an all.
Okay.
That's
So now we're
fair.
back to.
He asked for,
Right.
he asked for clarification,
Okay.
that's fair.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. I haven't typed this all out, so
That's
I'm
okay.
putting it
You're
together.
doing way better than I would trying to
You're
participate,
doing
so
fine,
thank you.
loud and clear, please.
To charge $334 per family for a gap year for less than 2 miles not hazardous zone with the option for those who qualify for free or reduced or those seeking financial hardship support.
Seeking or approved for financial? Would you amend it that they've been approved for financial rather than just seeking?
Can I speak on this?
I was gonna say, can we ask for administrator input into the motion, since it's so important?
They would first seek, we would follow the policy and guidelines that we currently have in place to determine whether or not they were in fact a financial hardship, at which time they would be approved. So maybe follow the process in which, or something to that nature would be best, but I think it's understood by administration that we have a process in place for free and reduced and those who are in a financial
And
hardship.
that's an administrative determination
That is
based.
correct.
Okay, so seeking would be appropriate,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
All right,
May I ask if there's any other input from the administration on the motion that you think we are missing a component of it? Since this is so complex.
I don't think so.
Are you saying anybody who wants to ride the bus then, even if they're like 0.1, they can get on the bus? If they live right next to the school, they can get on the bus if they so choose.
But they have to go to one of our current bus stops. There's not gonna be a bus stop within .1 mile of the school.
bus stop might be closer than the school, or school closer than the bus stop.
Right.
You made the motion?
One more time, one more
Who
time.
made the motion?
The original motion.
I made the
You
motion,
made
but
the
you
motion.
amended it.
Chris made the
Everyone
motion.
amended
I
it.
amended your motion, which we
Right.
approved, so now the main motion on the floor is as amended.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
So all in favor of as is as the amendment, oh my God. All in favor of the new motion?
We should have her read it one more
Read
time.
it one more time, yes.
This is really
From the
going on, so
beginning.
let's make sure.
Yeah,
This is
close.
So this is, the amended motion as it stands is to charge $334 per family for the gap year for less than 2 miles not in hazardous zone, with the option for those who qualify for free reduced or seeking financial hardship support.
Thank you.
And who was the
Your
original
turn.
second?
Who seconded you?
Yeah, who seconded me?
I lost taking notes.
You did?
I did, right?
Tiffany made the original, is that where we're back to?
Yeah, yeah.
I actually have Tom Harder as the second.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
all right, I just wanted to make sure we had that
Right,
down.
yeah, right.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wait, are we doing roll call?
No.
Sorry.
Just
We
say
just
Ayes.
went. So all in favor?
aye.
Chris?
That's it.
We all said aye.
I didn't hear it.
Yep.
I
How's
think that's a
that,
good compromise.
everyone? Now that is some governance. All right. Okay.
You're not energized, I don't know why you're even here. Sorry,
That's okay.
It's all right.
All right, we're gonna move on to the future board or committee actions or discussion items. Does anybody have any?
I know you're looking at me because I always do. One is whether or not we want to consider allowing responses to public comments. So I attended, the rationale is I attended an Arrowhead board meeting, and in their public comment section, the president is allowed to respond back to public comments during that public comment period, and or can appoint another board member to address the topic. So I think that's something the board should consider. I'd like to see it as a future agenda item. And then the other one is, and I don't know if this is an agenda item or not, but there should be some discussion about how we're gonna recognize Tom and Jeffrey's service.
I've been talking with Tina about it already.
Okay, yep.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
That was it.
Yep. All right, anyone else?
Yes.
Tom?
First of all, thank you very much, but anyhow, I'm trying to put together a family vacation for a very special occasion for Joseph coming up around the middle of March, which could impact my attendance in person at the March meeting. It could.
Okay, so you're just giving us a heads up?
That's correct.
Okay, and you know that we've changed it's earlier than normal. It's March 11th.
What is it?
The board meeting. We moved it because of spring break.
You're right.
So are you good?
You don't wanna hear my whole story. Sorry. Maybe.
Okay.
That would be better.
Okay.
But I would appreciate the option of, if it's, I'll look into it. We're not positive on some things. But I'm trying to, no, I mean, my kids are trying to put together a family get-together right around the 15th, so it might work.
Okay. All right, well, just keep us updated. Chris, do you have any?
No.
Okay. Jeffrey?
You're still on letter A, correct?
Correct.
Amy, you got this still, right? Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna turn it over to you for school board community listening sessions. That was something that was brought up both by Amy and Chris in previous meetings, and Chris did some research on it that with other schools that do it.
So for simplicity reasons, I communicated with Kim Schubert, the Arrowhead president, about how their community conversations portion of their meeting came to fruition and how they handle it and what they were planning on doing moving forward. And rather than summarize it, I'm going to read it. I'm gonna enter into evidence. Hello, Chris. Thanks for reaching out with regards to the AHS community conversations with the school board. The listening sessions were put in place under the past president, who may have been privy to additional legal counsel relative to the structure of those meetings. I will share information discussed by the full board, which made the decisions as to how these sessions took shape. Our community conversations meeting is held at a separate and distinct meeting, as a separate and distinct meeting from a monthly board meeting. While you can hold this session at any time, our board chose to schedule it monthly to precede our monthly board meeting. We were advised that due to the likelihood of a quorum of board members attending this meeting, the session must be legally posted. Our board modeled the session format after listening sessions in effect at other area schools where the structure of those meetings had provided successful results. Ultimately, our board decided on a 30-minute session. The meeting opens with a call to order, the Pledge of Allegiance, and a reading of the Rules of Engagement by the board president. Pause. There's a link in here to say these are the directives. Our board, resuming. Our board does not require participants to register in advance of their remarks. They take turns at the podium where they are asked to provide identifying information. Chris, we have held listening sessions where so many members of the public attend that 30 minutes is inadequate to hear from everyone.
With the board's approval, I, as president, have allowed these community members additional time during the board meeting. For the past 3 to 4 months, we have had either 0 or 1 or 2 members of the public in attendance at the listening session, leaving a wasted gap of 25 minutes or more of valuable board and administration time. Our board will be reevaluating our current listening session structure soon, with the potential to change the board meetings postings as follows. Currently, the listening session is scheduled for 6:30 p.m. with our board meeting scheduled for 7 p.m. We may change the board meeting start time to something that reflects the following. Quote, immediately following the adjournment of the community conversations or 7 p.m., whichever is first, end quote. Best wishes, finish from there. So that's at least the research at how Arrowhead ended up where they're at and what they're looking at and considering for the future.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to just, the community forums. Did you mean the listening sessions?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, I just wanted to verify that. That's what I assumed, but, all right, so let's discuss.
The community forums is on listening, same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it just got worded differently.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. Anybody? Jeffrey?
Excuse me.
Oh.
I guess my only comment would be, I always welcome a special board meeting or something if it's special. Widely involves the concerns of the community, to hold a special meeting for that purpose, and the track record's only been a few people in attendance. I don't think that justifies it. I think Kim said it very well in there. It doesn't justify valuable board time.
Did you want to add anything, Chris?
I'll pass and
Okay.
maybe come back after.
Amy?
I like the idea of incorporating a back and forth community listening session or forum somehow. Because I think with the current setup, the only option that we have is to listen and not be able to respond. And I think it'd be nice to have some kind of back and forth format. How we decide to structure that, whether we do it, should I speak louder? Whether we do it for half an hour prior to our scheduled board meeting or at a separate time, or as Kim Schubert suggested, saying the regularly scheduled board meeting starts as soon as community comments are done, so that people are aware of that option. I don't know, but I think I'd like us to continue to think about how we want to structure some regular listening sessions. I think that would be helpful.
Jeffrey?
I think it could be a waste of time, but I also think that if there are some topics that people want to talk about, like especially when we had like COVID, that would have been huge. That would have been crazy. That would have been way too much time, honestly. So I think that maybe we need to find a way to structure it, or people need to sign up in advance or something to come to the forum so that we know we're not wasting our time. You know, something so that we don't run into what Arrowhead has already run into with the former listening sessions. Listening sessions, so.
I just have concerns about overall time. We're already doing executive sessions prior to every meeting for the most part now. We have changed our guidelines in terms of what you can comment on at regular board meetings. We used to restrict you guys to only being able to public comment on agenda items, and now we allow you to speak to anything. We're doing quite a bit of community forums. I guess I am concerned with back and forth. I think it can get people in trouble. And it's not that we don't want to hear what you guys have to say, or we don't, I think there's other platforms to hear feedback and concerns. And with our strategic planning coming really soon, we're gonna be having a lot of special board meetings. That's just a lot of time.
Forgot about that.
Yes, I think that if there is a major concern about something that comes about, then we can look at doing something like that, but I think to vote for them to become a consistent thing is not something we need.
Yeah, in hearing that, I didn't think of it in those terms, as far as the time. And I will say that I've been extremely available to anyone that's ever reached out for anything, to have a conversation, an email, a text, a phone call, my cell phone number's out there. So if there's independent conversation that's requested, I mean, most of us make ourselves available for response. So I think you and Tom might be onto something, maybe doing it when there's a special need or a request, then maybe that does make sense.
And then I would go, you just mentioned what they do at Arrowhead, where there's direct answering by the president or an appointed person. So maybe that's more of the avenue we look at. I think that will help save time. So that would be my vote. We're not voting, right?
Yeah.
And I think when I read the link, just as some more background, when I read the link of their rules at Arrowhead, individual board members can't be put on the spot. So you, as an example, Yoshi couldn't say, Chris, I wanted to hear from you about this. How come you didn't want my tree to be green? You can't do that.
Right.
So there is at least some control in place to eliminate or mitigate the risk of back and forth that could turn overly enthusiastic.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's the rule, the rule of not engaging in back and forth is there for a reason. So, yeah, all right. Discussion and decision regarding school board candidate profiles on Hartland-Lakeside website. So I know I emailed you guys some information on that. I'll speak to it so you guys understand what legal has kind of told us. We are being advised to not do that, and that was something they were advised to do 2 years ago as well.
Excuse me, could you explain the legal opinion or why?
Yep, I'm getting there. I talked to Bob Butler at WASP, as well as he's the executive director and staff counsel at WASP. And then I talked to David Berger, who's counsel for the Wisconsin Ethics Commission. So basically, there is a couple, it's really gray, which makes it hard. So we obviously are erring on the safe side, but we do not, as a school, want to be associated with any type of campaigning or looking like we're supporting a specific candidate. There's some key words, one being express advocacy, which means you're basically favoring someone, hopefully to help them win. And then there's also public purpose doctrine complaint, which has to do with it looking like we're using public funds to help specific people do certain things. So it gets a little sketchy with our policy, number 444, in terms of, so basically the policy says the goals of the Hartland-Lakeside internet website are to provide an effective communication tool between the school district and students, parents, and community, to provide a teaching resource for educators, and to publish student work as a showcase for the achievements of the Hartland-Lakeside students. All materials posted to the website must follow the guidelines of the above goals, project a positive image of the Hartland-Lakeside district, and preserve the confidentiality of students and staff. So the guidelines that are laid out is that all information must accurately reflect the mission, goals, policies, and curriculum of the district. Also, campaigning for the election of candidates for any political office. So those are the two main bullet points within that policy that contribute to making it just too gray for us. So I would like to make a motion for Hartland-Lakeside to not post election candidate profiles to their website or communicate them through district emails.
We're using any Hartland-Lakeside resources to possibly promote information regarding candidates.
I think that is, don't you think that
We're using
my wording is
resources.
encompassed?
And I think the other item you mentioned that's very important.
Point of order. We are in the middle of a discussion when there's an open motion on the floor that has not been seconded. It's the ruling of the chair to make a decision if we can continue.
Yes, let's continue with the motion, not the discussion.
Second.
All in favor? Well, all right, sorry, discussion.
We can do it.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
That's right. I'll defer.
Well, now's the time for you to have your discussion.
Yeah.
So now we're at the appropriate place in the
I'm trying
flow.
to remember what I said 2 minutes ago.
Tom, you basically.
I thought you'd like that answer.
Can I jump in for a second? I just have a quick comment that I think will make it easier. I would suggest to my fellow board members that we kill that motion and consider making one more simple that just says to only post the required name information on the website. That way it's not gray.
No.
There's nothing to read into. And you're done. Because then it's following statute.
Using
So
school district resources.
You are required by statute to post it.
Or just the posting?
Of the name.
Of the name.
Of the name.
As long as it's
Not contact information, not a website, not anything, not a belief, not a bio. You're required by statute. I'm sorry, this is just my comments. I may be wrong, and I apologize.
Okay.
But my understanding.
clarified it, thank
Yeah,
you.
my understanding of the statute is that we are required, as a clerk, and I think you would know too, to post the name publicly on our domain of those running for open seats.
like 3 days before or something, right? Wasn't there a timeline on that?
I apologize, I don't know. I would
Okay.
imagine it has to be within days of the closing date. There is a time element, but I don't remember what it is. I apologize.
So are we still having ongoing
We're
discussion?
still discussion. That was
Okay.
just my recommendation, is to kill that motion and make one more simple, saying it's going to be just the names. That's my recommendation.
Okay, so I completely agree that posting bios or additional information does not fit our policy. So for that, if it doesn't fit policy, I would agree. I would disagree with the recommendation though or the advice from the legal team that it's advocacy, because I don't personally understand how it's advocacy if you have the same information for all 5 people, not like only 1 out of the 5 or 3 out of the 5. So in terms of advocacy, if you allow equal access to the information, I don't see how it's advocacy. But since it's not in our guidelines for content, then that's where I think that we can't do it because it does not meet our policy.
Well, I think any profile is gonna, when you're speaking about yourself and what you're about, that's advocacy.
But if you allow all 5 people to do it, how is it the
Yeah, but
district
each
advocating?
profile
for
is
them to do it?
different, so you're
Right.
doing something different.
Right.
And how would you get the 5?
So posting the names is real straightforward. It complies with state statute. It's real clean.
I mean, there's a reason why the previous board and previous administrator didn't do it either.
I was very involved in that. You're right. I've said that several times.
And honestly, most of the feeder schools are not doing it. I think there's only 2. And I think one of them is being hosted by the PTO, which is like totally a no-no.
Many of the other districts that I looked at just randomly, looking for things, just had a name.
And it was even hard to find where they had it posted.
I think at the end of the day, Amy is right, it's not in our policies, so we just don't do it.
Okay, so
I just made the suggestion, I did not make a
so
motion.
we have to amend.
Can't, I don't think you could, well, I guess it's staying in,
Yeah.
it's staying in the spirit of what you're doing. So,
Yeah.
okay, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I would like to motion to amend
Here we go.
the main motion to read. What was your original? What was the original, how it was worded?
Hartland-Lakeside to
I might have
not
time for the
post
bathroom break here.
election candidate profiles to their website or to promote them through email.
Well, Tom, we gotta vote here in a second.
Hold on one second, Tom. This might be quick.
I'm sorry, what?
I motion to amend the main motion to read that Hartland-Lakeside will only post the names of candidates up for election on their website as required by state statute.
Second.
Tom just went potty though. It's just sit tight. That's all.
Alright, well then I can make sure I have this right. So Hartland-Lakeside will only post the names of candidates on their website as required by state statute. Is that what you said?
Did you say of candidates?
Will only
For
post the
open
names of
seats, I think.
candidates for open seats?
I think it's the same, the candidates, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's only candidates that they're.
There's no crazy candidates.
Jeffrey, did you second that?
He did,
Thank you.
Yeah.
just.
You guys are troopers, thanks for hanging in there.
I say, aren't you anxious to be
I'm
up here
saying it's
doing
not
this?
11, we're not gonna beat the record.
Oh, no, closed session record was what, 2 AM?
Yeah, close to 2 AM.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't go to those.
That's when we found out the lights turn off after a certain period of time.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
poor
nice,
George.
that's nice.
We had to use our cell phone
Yeah, the parking
flashlights to
lot
find our
gets
cars.
very dark.
Mhm.
All right, Tom,
Sorry.
we've got the motion on the table. Jeffrey has seconded it. Amy, can you read it one more time for him?
Yes. Heartland-Lakeside will only post the names of candidates for open seats on their website as required by state statute.
Jeffrey seconded it?
That's the motion to amend the main motion to that, just to be clear. It's not voting on it, it's voting to amend it. Okay.
All right.
So all in favor of amending it?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes. So now we have to do the official motion. Anyone?
Well, now we're gonna vote on the official
Now we're gonna
motion.
vote on the amendment.
Oh, because the second, yeah.
Yeah, we're,
Sorry,
It was already
I'm
seconded.
sorry,
It
I'm
doesn't need to
losing
be
my hair.
anything.
that's okay too.
Just
Alright.
same thing all over again.
Okay, alright,
One more time?
sure.
Heartland-Lakeside will only post the names of candidates for open seats on their website as required by state statute.
And who was the one that seconded it?
I seconded the original one and it was amended, so technically I seconded it.
Okay, so all in
Excuse me.
favor?
I'm sorry. This may be out of order. Is the proper word required or provided for by state statute? Chris?
I don't know.
I think required.
I mean, if
I'm
it's a
not
state
sure it's
statute, it's law,
required.
so,
I'm not sure it's required, so can we just a different word, as provided in state statute?
Well, that implies the same thing.
yeah, I think we're good.
As provided,
How about we just,
we cannot put that one in there.
Are you making a motion to amend
We
it?
have to amend.
I wouldn't dare do that at this time.
Alright, then,
Then no, we can't change it.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Alright,
Motion passed.
moving on. Alright, future meetings, PPC is scheduled for March 1st at 8 AM.
Yes, that is correct.
Aren't you glad we're not on that one anymore?
Ready to go.
Finance Committee is March 11th at 11:15. Thanks for making it 11:15. I appreciate that.
Yep.
And the school board meeting, like I said, is March 11th.
But,
We don't have a time.
We don't have a time yet. Yeah.
well, the time and then
Just get back to us.
I will.
Okay.
And we'll have to vote one way or the other.
Yeah.
Whether or not we allow you to attend
You're
for
right.
policy.
For policy. Exactly, all right.
I'd be disappointed if that wasn't brought up.
I make a motion to adjourn at 9:16.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The iPad. Thank you so much, you guys,
Thank you,
for sticking
guys.
around. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
If I can say something, meeting's done.
Meeting's done, you can talk.
Not this past January at the state convention, but a year ago. Same kind of